Uh-oh. Uh-oh, it's primetime 99. Uh-oh, we got the gold in the mouth. You know, I'm in Texas. I'm in the South. Let's go. We call that ear candy. We're getting wild tonight. It's debate night. Fight night. Ah! Woo, ha, ha, ha. I am Ninja. Don't deny my ninja skills. Modern day debate night. I get hyped up for the debate. Got my hair out of whack, out of line, 99. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Conspiracy Castle. I'm your conspiracy asshole. Primetime 99, always on the grain. Alright, I'm in an annoying mood, sorry. Well, I gotta dial it in. I gotta dial it down. I get hyped up, guys, because I'll be honest with you. When you get Primetime 99 in debate mode, dog, that's the fettuccine with the Alfredo. And I'm talking about unlimited breadstick lifestyle. You guys gotta... My mic is hot. Why has my mic been so hot? Well, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with my settings. I don't know what's going on with my microphone. It's still hot. Wow, let me hear it. Let me hear it. Let's hear it. Come on. 99, always on the grain. I don't know why it's like that, mother trucker. Alright, I'm in an annoying mood. Sorry. Well, I gotta dial it in. I gotta dial it. Okay, let's see if it's better now. Damn, it's still going into the red. Primetime 99, Alex Stein on the grind all the time. Okay, let me turn on the gain. How about that? Primetime 99. Is that okay? It's Primetime 99 mode. Now, let's hear it. Let me go to live. Microphone test, 1, 2. Microphone test, modern day debate. We're about to freaking go hardcore pre-show. Let's hear it. Let me go to live. Microphone test, 1, 2. Microphone test, modern day debate. We're about to freaking go hardcore pre-show. Let's hear it. Let me go to live. Okay, it sounds fine. Sounds fine. 7 out of 10. It's okay. It's not great, but... So, what are we here tonight? What are we discussing? Guys, it's the Primetime 99 Alex Stein Show, and tonight we are debating critical race theory. Now, what is critical race theory? I mean, critical race theory is basically the idea that, you know, everything is broken down and due to racism. So, it's the opposite of what it tries to do. What it tries to do is it picks up people that are victims of intersectionality and puts them at the center. But the problem with that is it decentralizes, I guess I don't know if that's the word, but it takes the people that are currently in the center out from the, you know, it takes me. I'm a victim. I'm the biggest victim of critical race theory. Now, I don't want to come here on the debate and be like, oh, I'm a victim, this and that. But you have to realize I'm at the top of the intersectionality chart. So I'm the biggest oppressor, whether I'm an oppressor or not, whether I'm racist or not, because I'm part of a racist structure of being white. Ipso facto, I'm a racist, even if you have no racism. So what I'm saying is it takes away the individualism of us, and it takes away our individuality, and it creates a Marxist state of communalism, excuse me. And that's what critical race theory is doing. It's literally Marxism put in place in these schools in order to, the majority of people, what we're doing is we're changing all the rules for the minority. And we're creating an oppression that might be there, but it's not there to the extent at which critical race theory puts it. I mean, they put it that every interaction that you interact with somebody is based on racism. which is insane because you have times all the time you interact with people with no racism whatsoever. So, I mean, it's too far out there. That's the problem. You know, it's like it goes along with, a boy transitioning and competing in non biological sports. In a sport that is, he's not the non biological sex. All I can say is this: it's prime time. My mic's probably hot. I gotta talk not into it all hardcore. I know I repeat the same mantra, but that is part of the grind. Is part of the mantra. We guys all gotta kind of just get it. We gotta get it in our vernacular so we can understand, so we can start living that lifestyle. Let me just tell you something. Critical race theory is the gateway to George Orwell's 1984. No doubt. No doubt. And it's a state-sponsored mission statement in order to demoralize our children against one another and set in place a system of social classes and races that are all based on social structures that they create. They say that race is not genetic. See, that's the thing, is critical race theory goes against a lot of objective truths that we know, but they say that race isn't based. It's not based on the color of your skin. It's based on your social class or your social standing. Which I can argue, I guess I get that because, there's people that are, it's not true. I can see their argument. And they use a bunch of mumbo jumbo law stats that really don't correlate, that you can really misinterpret a bunch of different ways. Correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation. And you can look at our crime stats. I'll be honest, we do have a system where we have a lot of nonviolent drug offenders, black people in jail. But by teaching critical race theory, that's not going to help the system. As a matter of fact, it's just burning the system down. It's a lot like the 1619 Project, which basically creates a timeline of history of when the slaves first got off the slave ships onto Virginia, and then creates a timeline from there. So you can imagine how goofy that is. Let me clear my throat. How many people were we watching? We got 72 people watching on the pre-show. And guys, I want you to click the link. How many people watching? We got to click the link to go to Modern Day Debate here in the description. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat right now on Modern Day Debate. 44 people waiting. Now let's go. I'm really excited. Because the debate is not a topic that, we normally cover here at the Conspiracy Castle. And, I'm not some staunch conservative. I believe the guy, this is who we're debating. Let's show the channel right here. So here it is, critical race theory. And this guy is actual socialist trash is one of the person's name. And then be gay, do debate, which this will be good. We're going to get some gay debaters. That's awesome. So... they would say that I'm their oppressor, being a straight cis male, because they're victims of intersectionality. So we should put them up in front of me. We got to hoist up those like themselves to the center. So we're gonna get into it, and you know what I'm gonna do, like I always do. I'm gonna put on a show, because why? Because this is show business. And ain't no business like show business. See what I'm saying? Ain't no business like 99 business neither, dog. This is the real deal Holyfield, okay? So, just remember, we got 47 people watching. We got to really go in there in chat room. And, we want to be classy. I know that chat room is absolutely toxic. I know it is toxic in there. It's topsy-turvy. Lord knows what it is. We got 79. What's going on in the chat here? Toxic. I know it is toxic in there. It's topsy-turvy. Lord knows what it is. We got 79. Let's go. The audio sounds okay. Sounds okay. It's not too hot. It's not too hot as long as the mic's like right there and I talk into it. I just got so much gusto, dog. When you're a gusto player like me. All right, RT, thank you for watching. You like that more friendly time. Yeah, RT, I think I'm going to start doing some daytime streams. I got to start doing some shorter streams Got to take clothes off Alex. That will bring him in. You know that I'm going to go shirtless probably during the debate, actually. I might just take off the shirt and go shirtless. Oh, here, let me read actually some other marker. What's going on? Bob's Burgers. Let's go. Angela. Dingle Dammer. Okay. No, he doesn't like, what? This guy's not. I don't think this guy likes this show. Okay, well, we're just going to get our good vibrations going because tonight, I imagine, will be a combative show. And it's a 2-on-2 debate, which never goes well. That's what I'm saying. It never goes well because what are you gonna do? It's like I'm gonna step on him, he's gonna step on me, so it's gonna be kind of like a little bit of a cluster F, as we like to call it. But that's fine. That's how I expect it to be, and I wouldn't have it any other way. There's no other way that I would have it other than totally hot potatoes. It's gonna be wild, absolutely bonkers. Now, am I talking up? Yes, a little bit. Because we're talking about what should be taught in schools, and that's boring as crap. We're going to talk about school curriculum? You're going to debate school with curriculum? Yes, I'm going to debate school curriculum, dog. I'm Primetime 99. I'm the king of all debaters. I'm the king of all conspiracy. This is a conspiracy. This is literally the conspiracy. They want to put us in the New World Order, and this is the plan. It's just like all the books have been Rockefeller, Rothschild, funded, McGraw-Hill bullcrap. So, I mean, it's literally all been trash. Everything we've been taught. So, critical race theory is just an accelerated version of their bullcrap and their socialist propaganda Marxism, bray. That's why I debate. I'm the prime. I'm the time. Double 9, double grind, triple shine, though. Double 9, double grind, triple shine. Some of y'all don't respect that. Some of y'all shine 1/100th. I got the triple shine guarantee. If you use this brand of turtle wax on this body, triple shine, double 9, double grind. I wish I was making this stuff up, but this is my lifestyle. Did I choose this lifestyle? No, nobody chooses this lifestyle. You're anointed. This lifestyle was predetermined in a laboratory before I was born by people smoking cigarettes that were officials and agencies that we can't even name because they don't even have names, dog. No email addresses. That's where I came from. I came from a time before the internet owned the world. And guess what? I came back. And what am I going to do? I'm going to end critical race here. Whoa, $10. See true now. Yes, Alex, you're a king for that magnet activism video. I feel bad for the girl. Yeah, it looks sad. It did look sad. She did look kind of sad. I didn't like it was kind of bad vibrations, actually. I forgot what I was talking about, but debate. We gonna be debating. Wow, $10. If you guys want to donate, make sure to go to conspiracycastle.live. Wow, let's see what we're at. I have some good. We're at donations. Let's see what we're at. We're at. Let's see. Wow, I'm over $2,000 in donations. This has been a little while since a $1,400 stream. I've not cashed it out. But $2,000. Thank you guys so much. Now I'm rich. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to have to pay guys in Bangladesh to edit these videos. I did. I had to pay a guy. I paid 2 guys in Bangladesh to edit it down, and then I had to add some stuff to it. Just because I didn't want to match up the audio. It's such a pain in the butt. But I'm telling you this. That money's going to the Primetime 99 Conspiracy Castle Fund. I put my heart and soul into this. I put more than money, dog. I put my life into this. And that's worth millions, my guy. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell y'all other than we're about to freaking grind it and shine it, okay? And I want to see y'all in the chat. Be respectful. I tend to be a little toxic. I'll be honest with you. But I kind of need. I got to keep it on our channel too. I got to keep the show on our channel because I like it when you guys are chatting in the chat here. I don't look that much at it, but it's nice to see some familiar faces saying some positive stuff. D Live turned off. D Live turned off. Oh, a record indicated. No, D Live's back up, I think. Yeah. D Live is back up. What's up, Spencer? What's up, D Live? D Live likes it. Yo, yo, yo. Okay, hold on. I think we're good. Oh, shite. Let me see Rokfin. I never started Rokfin. Ah, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Oh, let me check my emailies, too. You know, oh, here's the link to the Zoom debate. Okay. Okay, I'm going to join the meeting. All right. Let's see. Let's go. Let's join this. Okay. All right. Let's see if we're join the video. Let's see if we can do the dang thing. They're gonna wait to let me in. Oh, they're letting me in already? Okay, that was quick.
Hey, Bryce, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, and also Conspiracy Castle. Good to see him too.
Yo, 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 yo. What's up, fellas? It's primetime 9 and 9. I'm excited to get down tonight. This is gonna be awesome.
Nice.
I gotta use the restroom, but hey, you guys are live on my channel right now, so everything you say is you're live.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know, but the audio. But I gotta use the restroom. But we're live on my channel, just so you know. So if you guys want to say anything crazy, it'll be recorded. All right.
Just so I'm clear, it is Conspiracy Castle and Rob against AST and
Jangles.
Jangles.
Yeah, Jangles.
Okay. And who's going first? Is it AST and Jangles?
I'm not sure. I tried to touch base with him earlier today, but didn't hear anything back. I don't mind going first. I'm more interested in the open discussion than I am doing an opening, so I'll probably just defer most of my time to Q&A or open discussion.
Okay.
So I told him to just take as long as he wants on his opening.
All right, I'll be right back, guys. 1 second.
Great. I guess we're dismissing Jangles.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, I'm back. I'm excited. This is gonna be interesting. I never thought I'd be debating school curriculum in my life. Like, you know what I mean? How lame is that?
Well, it's important.
Yeah, that's right. It is important. Okay, so who's who? Okay, I'm anti CRT, and who is pro? Who's the affirmative? Is that what it is? I don't even know the terms.
The affirmative. Myself and Jangles.
Jangles, and then okay, so Rob, you and I are anti.
Yep.
Sounds good. So you're on my team. I don't know the team debate. How do you want to do it? So like, you know, the first, I guess we have 12 minutes. You just want to split it 6 and 6, or do you want to talk first? Because I talk a lot, so you can talk first. If you want to talk a little, and then I can finish it. You know what I mean? It's just up to you.
Yeah. Like I was telling them, I'm more interested in open discussion. So I'm probably going to defer most of my time to Jangles, and then whatever's left will go to Q&A or open discussion, one of the two.
Jangles. What is that? Jangalang, Jangalang. That reminds me of that movie, Life, with Eddie Murphy. One of my favorite movies. You guys ever see that movie? And the person that played that was, what is it? Bernie Mac played. You guys don't know what I'm talking about? You guys never saw that movie with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence?
I'm not a movie buff.
Really?
I may have seen it a long time ago. I don't.
You guys never saw Bernie Mac? It's about the black prisoners. It's a really good movie. It's awesome. It's a comedy.
Oh yeah, when they're in jail. Yeah,
yes, dude. Yes, and Bernie Mac's character is Jangalang. Jangalang. He's a famous character. Praise. Do you remember that movie? Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh, what live stream?
Vaguely.
What? Hold on.
How do I set it up so whoever's talking is the big screen? Does anyone know how to do that?
I think you go a left thing, speaker view, left click, speaker view, I believe.
There we go. We got Jangles in here now, so I'll be able to share. Here we go.
Hey.
That does. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I also talk a lot, Alex, so I don't care. However you want to do it.
Is that Rob who's talking? No, Rob. I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
That's wrong.
What do you? I mean, I can go first. You can go first. I don't care. Of our split, we'll just split it 6 and 6.
Sounds good. I'm indifferent who goes first. It don't matter to me.
Okay. Well, I'll go first then. I don't care.
Okay.
I'll volunteer.
Conspiracy Castle, you're coming out of like only my left side. Is that a problem on my end?
No,
No, it's only coming out of my left side as well.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. Hold on. Is it now? Is it coming out of both sides?
Oh yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
it now.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know why it does that through my USB
Do you have
interface.
Do you have your right microphone selected in Zoom?
Yeah, it's my Scarlett USB interface, but I think I have it all hooked up because I'm an idiot. Are you
It sounds like
Jangles?
you're-
Are you Jangles?
Oh yeah, I gotta change
I'm
it.
Alex. Yeah, please tell me what's wrong with it, dude. I need audio help. I suck.
It sounds like your gain is set crazy high.
I wonder if it's better now.
Okay, there's a
No.
lot of background. You're using a Shure SM7B, right?
Yes, with the
Thing is-
with a cloud lifter and a freaking. I got my. But I don't know if it's going through it goes through a filter through my streaming software, but I don't know if it does through Zoom.
Turn your gain down on the Scarlett, on your audio interface.
Okay, what about now? Sounds
More.
better. More?
Keep going.
Wow. More? That's all the way down. There's no way. Can people hear that?
Okay, I didn't hear any difference.
No, I
Really?
didn't either.
Loud.
You're really loud, actually.
I am?
Yeah. Is it something in a software? You're
Oh,
using?
it's probably in the fucking Zoom. Hold on. Audio
Yeah.
settings.
Just go where it says mute and make
that
sure
has to
you're.
be better, right?
Yeah. Now you're really quiet.
Now turn it back up.
Okay. How about this? Red leather, yellow leather. Hello.
Keep going.
Hello.
Keep going.
Hello.
Keep going.
Yo.
Uh,
Hello.
no, there's that hiss again.
Yeah.
It's hissing.
Hold on.
I wonder if that's my fan picking that up. I think that's my fan that's hissing. Now is it hissing anymore?
No, it's still hissing. It's electronic noise.
It sounds good enough to me, though.
It is. Fuck. I know, but.
Yeah, I mean, it won't like break you or anything, but
Hello?
it's like
I don't
that's
want-
I know you have a very expensive microphone set up.
I
and,
know.
like,
I don't want it to sound suck dick like this. I don't know why it sucks, dude. I don't know. I got it all set up with this interface. It sucks. It sucks. Okay, hold on. Let me try one last thing. Let me see if this works. I don't know if this will.
Hey, thanks, Buckeye. Hey, just to let everyone know, I did say this in the email, but I'm off work, but I do home healthcare. If an emergency springs up,
Hello.
and we have to run out for like 5 minutes. It's not that I'm offended or upset. It's just
Gotcha.
you never know with healthcare; anything could happen. So it never does.
How,
I just-
how does it sound now? Does it
it's
still?
not that I'm offended or
Oh,
upset.
This is
you're
bad.
really loud now.
You never
You're
know with
really,
healthcare.
Real loud?
And just
Yeah.
and just
It never does.
Yeah.
How does it sound now? Does it still?
Really loud. Hey, Jangles, I don't know if you got my email earlier, but I'm probably going to defer most of the opening to you. I'm
Gotcha.
more interested in open discussion.
Okay. Well, I will be long-winded, and by the time I'm going to put everyone to sleep. That's my strategy.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
So, oh wait,
You
y'all
can
weren't
have-
supposed to hear that.
You can have the whole thing if you want.
So who's going first, guys?
I'm happy to go first because it's the affirmative.
So Jangles and actual socialist trash.
Yes.
Okie dokie. And you want me to refer to you like that, right?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Is it cool if we just call you actual for short, just if we're in a discussion?
Sure. That's fine.
Love it.
How do I sound?
Juicy.
It still sounds like shit.
Hold on.
How does it
Say it
sound?
again?
Does it still sound bad? Red leather, yellow leather. Blah blah blah. Critical
Sounds-
race theory.
Sounds
Better?
distant.
Distant. Primetime
Put your
99.
Tap your mic. Tap the mic.
Let me see my settings. It has to be the right.
Praise, are you going to be working on
Yeah,
the
I'm
chats
on
at
it.
all?
Yeah, I got the super chats. Don't worry about that.
Are you just going to look for super chats, or you going to look for non-paid questions as well too?
I will if that comes. I will, but I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay, I'm going to tell them to tag. Should I tell them to tag Modern Day Debate or me?
Modern day. That's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna do that after the first opening statement. When I'm doing my whole spiel.
Perfect.
Well, how does it? Red leather, yellow leather. This is Alex Stein. What does it sound like now? Got to go down.
A lot.
Yeah.
It's not that you're loud. Now it's your peaking.
I'm clipping really bad.
Yeah.
What, dude? This doesn't make any fucking sense.
It wouldn't be a true stream if
what?
everything didn't go wrong.
Now it's just one. Was it just going through one side now?
It's both sides, but it just sounds like it's peaking really bad.
What about now? Red leather. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Okay. Just one last time. Scratch your mic. Just scratch the front of it. Just scratch the very front. There's nothing. It's not coming out of that mic. That's the problem.
It's not?
No, it is not coming out of that mic. That's the problem.
That's impossible. What the fuck? Wait, what? That doesn't make... There's no way it's not coming out of this mic. I mean...
Well, when you scratch it... So this is what it sounds like when I scratch my mic.
You guys can't hear that?
No.
Wait, what the fuck? Can they hear it? Can you guys... I'm wondering, my show, they can hear it. Now it's saying it's peaking. What the fuck is going on? This audio works usually, and now it's not. Let me check my fucking...
It's not... I've heard worse people with their best equipment, so it's not, like, undoable.
But what? It doesn't make sense that it's not... You guys are trolling. Are you guys trolling me? You guys are trolling.
No.
Really? Oh, fuck.
Negative,
Okay.
sir.
Okay,
No
well, fuck, dude. I don't know why it's so high.
So 100% when you check your... Like, when you go over to mute... So, and that little arrow that comes up when it says select a microphone, you have your audio interface selected. That's
yeah,
100%.
I got it. Select microphone. It's got the Scarlett USB. I mean, red leather. Yeah, it's not working. I mean, you can't hear me. I mean,
Sorry.
this is the Scarlett. I mean, this is the Scarlett on. What? How does it sound now? Does it sound different? I mean,
That sounds as good as it sounded.
Yeah.
That's good.
okay. It's because I had this original sound thing on. Maybe that's it's been like that. I don't fucking know. All right. Well, let's just fucking get it on. Does it sound okay?
Good enough.
It sounds doable. Yeah, it sounds doable.
Okay. Shit.
The only thing, the only disadvantage you'll have is that you can't do this little number right here.
Yeah, I
Too
can't.
sensual.
What's
It's
up?
too sensual. We can't handle it.
Now I can't even debate because I'm like my tools are all fucked up. People are saying
No,
it's fine.
Like it's fine. Like it's like seriously, it's legible and that's what counts.
I know.
No,
But...
I know it sucks to have like a $400 microphone.
And it sucks.
I know that sucks. It's happened to me before on this channel, so you know it happens.
And dude, it must have been something I just did. I don't know I don't know how I changed one setting and it all gets fucked up, but it's okay. We're just gonna get it on like Donkey Kong. So did we decide? I've been freaking out about my audio. Did we say who's going first? Oh, okay, cool.
AST, I like that your shirt matches your sheets. That's awesome. It's very good.
It's the zebra strategy. You're gonna blend in.
It's
so you
good.
can tell visually there.
That's right.
Or how many of them there are.
I was trying to get around to getting something to block my room, but
In my work office, it's the same thing. At home, I could have stuff, but here it's nope, can't do it. So
yeah, my 19-month-old was sick all week, so I've not been able to. I've not been able to get any of that done.
I have a 4-month-old, so first time, so I'm just muddling my way through.
Yeah, this is my first as well.
All right, we're all set to go. So, Kaz, you know the our cadence for So we're gonna have a cold opening where you say, "Hello, everyone. We're debating blank, 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 and we're starting right now." After you say that, there'll be like a 10 to 20-second countdown. I mean, I'll just cue you through the whole thing. So basically,
Okay, then I'll just introduce actual socialist trash and jangles and let them take it away for their 12-minute opening. I'll let you guys split it any way you want. I'll let you guys know when it's 6 minutes. And then I'll stop you when it's 12 minutes, and then I'll do my little spiel and then turn it over to Conspiracy Castle and Rob. I'll do another little spiel, and then we'll turn it over to the open dialogue, et cetera, et cetera.
And just letting you know that based on what we pre-agreed on, I might go over our 6 minutes, but we will not go over our 12 minutes.
Sounds good.
all right, we're pre-stream right now.
Da, 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 da.
I swear
Is there a specific kind of school you guys are talking about? Is it like elementary school, college, what?
My understanding was K through 12, any and all.
I believe that as well. So, but we could branch out a little if you want to talk university as well. But I was prepared for K through 12.
I'm fine with that too. I was prepared for K through 12 and also prepared to talk about beyond that.
Like
up to and including.
Okay.
I think beyond that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what they came out of is the colleges. I mean,
yeah.
Any argument you have why it's bad in college would apply exponentially to K through 12. So,
I think college should be a no-brainer.
How long we got, Praise?
Oh, there we go. So we'll just let it go for about a minute. Whenever you guys are ready to rock and roll, are you ready to go, Kaz? Everyone else, is there any bathroom breaks or any of that stuff?
Can I go pee again? I don't know why. I get stressed. Sorry, I'm a bitch ass tonight. Sorry.
Yeah, 1 second.
For real. I understand. I have
good switch. We could have the pee break people be on a team. Yeah, see if you want.
I got to shit twice before these things, so I understand completely.
Sure, I think things might get a little confusing with our conflicting ideas, though.
Yeah. I don't mind these so much. When I used to do policy debate in college, like before a round, I'd pee like maybe 1/10 of an ounce 500 times before a round started. Once it started, I was fine, but.
Kind of nervous. This is my first debate ever, but
really,
wow.
I mean, I've debated friends,
right,
a lot. I enjoy debate, but I've never sat down at a formal debate before. Even though this is more informal than it is anything else, but
if you just the best advice, I don't give advice really, but I found that the more I just be myself, the better. Even if I'm wrong, at least I'm myself,
Well, how can you be anything but yourself?
Well, you see a lot of it on stream. People playing characters and
My
stuff.
strategy is to be cute. You can't hit me if I'm cute.
There you go.
Well, we said be yourself, so that works out, I guess, in your case. For me, trollish, maybe oafish would be the word, but.
I guess we're all ready to get going here. It looks like it.
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
All right, so I'll do like a 7-second countdown. Make sure we get the right one. There we go. Whoops, sorry. That's kind of. We'll do like a 7-second countdown, Kaz, and then we'll start right now. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
People of the internet, tonight we are debating, should critical race theory be taught in schools? And we are starting right now.
Perfect. Be about 20 seconds. I'll You're live.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we're debating, should critical race theory be taught in schools? We have Actual Socialist Trash and Jangles teaming up against Alex Stein and Rob Noer. Am I saying that right?
Mhm.
Great. And Actual Socialist Trash and Jangles are going first with their 12-minute opening. The floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone. So, if it wasn't apparent from a cursory glance at the discourse surrounding critical race theory in the news and the never-ending flow of toxic sewage that is social media, most of the debate on the topic is using CRT as a stand-in to advance via attack or defense their path.
Hold
their
on.
view.
They're saying there's no sounds. Let me figure out what's going on here really quick.
You're on a roll too.
I know it was like
No
going
sound?
so good.
Oh, no. Okay.
Oh,
Let's see if
man,
we can get that
this
fixed.
is conspiracy.
I'll reset
against
the
me.
clock.
It's
Are they
me.
hearing me or are they hearing
You guys sabotaged me, so I sabotaged this back.
Okay. Testing,
it's a
testing.
conspiracy?
It's
Testing,
a
I'm
group
talking.
group sabotage.
Testing, I'm talking.
Maybe
Did we not
Cat.
hear anything?
Kaz. No.
Speaking.
Oh,
to
no.
you, telling you to shut up.
All right,
Speaking
guys,
of
just
sound.
start yelling at each other and throwing your ad hominems now while you have a chance.
Drinking
After that,
my
we'll get back to being civilized.
my flavored water, trying to get hyped up.
Wow.
All right.
What software are you using? Streamlabs?
Yep. Streamlabs.
And is you through the right settings when the speaker settings on Streamlabs?
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Are we good to go now? Are we getting some positive feedback yet?
Positive feedback of talking and speaking.
There we go. It should be good to go.
All right, I'm resetting
All
the
right.
clock, and I will start at your first word, Jangles.
All right, take two. Hello, everyone. So, if it wasn't apparent from a cursory glance at the discourse surrounding critical race theory in the news and the never-ending flow of toxic sewage that is social media, most of the debate on the topic is using CRT as a stand-in target to advance, via attack or defense, their view of America's path forward. CRT is not merely saying that racism is bad, nor is it a cloak and dagger shield for the destruction of Western civilization, and you should ignore anyone trying to reduce it down to either of those paltry explanations. Thus, most people lack any meaningful understanding of what critical race theory actually is, instead blindly attacking or defending both the concept and the legislation removing it based on the willful ignorance and a need to take a side in the culture proxy war. CRT is a broad lens of legal and societal analysis that formed collectively amongst many scholars and over many years. That said, according to the authors of the textbook cited by most critics, by Richard Delgado and Gene Stefancic, as well as the American Bar Association, there are about 4 key tenets that consistently show up in CRT inspired conversations. 1. Recognition that race is not biologically real, but is socially constructed and yet socially significant. 2. Acknowledgement that racism is a normal feature of society and is embedded within systems and institutions like the legal system that replicate racial inequality. 3. Rejection of the popular understandings about racism, such as arguments that confine racism to a few bad apples, or that racism must be intentional and explicit. CRT recognizes that it is the systemic nature of racism that bears primary responsibility for reproducing racial inequality. And 4. Recognition of the relevance of people's everyday lives to scholarship and embracing the lived experiences of people of color. All of these tenets can be supported by mountains of both historical and empirical data, but at its core, CRT is a lens of interpretation, one that places the role of race in society front and center. Opposition to the teaching of CRT in school, therefore, is at best a declaration that race should never take front and center stage in a K-12 setting, and at worst, a declaration that it should never be discussed at all. All accusations of anti-white racism that CRT purports must be analyzed alongside the fact that, thanks to centuries of history and a deep-seated attachment to the status quo that conflicts with outwardly stated values of equality, according to a 2011 study published in the Perspectives on Psychological Science, white people on aggregate, not all white people, but on aggregate, view racism as a zero-sum game, such that decreases in perceived bias against black people over the past 6 decades are associated with increases.
Hey, I think they're
Hey,
saying the
hold on,
audio
guys.
is
I think
fucked
there's
up.
no mute.
Yeah,
There's no
the
sound.
audio is fucked up.
Oh man.
Wow.
Oh, I was trying to
The
not
the, au-
interrupt.
the
Some
audio.
people saying they can hear, some people saying they can't. I don't know.
Oh wow.
I
And then
stopped
I
the
get
time.
to redo the sentence I flubbed.
Go ahead and start over. It
Whoa.
looks like some people didn't hear it. So
So
Wow.
the entire thing.
It might as well.
yeah,
Who's way too loud? Everybody or what?
Let's just make sure everyone's hearing before he starts, because
Shit, we're having some
I
tech
know.
live. It's okay. It's okay. It happens to
Somebody
me.
says-
It's
some
not
people are saying
easy.
Audio's good now.
Think about CNN. Those guys get paid
Okay.
millions of dollars to do this shit.
Oh, so sorry, Jingles. All right,
okay.
I'm gonna reset it. The time.
So I'm starting completely over, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe make it a little succinct. My audience saw
All
it.
right, I'm not seeing anybody saying the audio's bad now, so
I'll tell you.
I think we can start over now.
Okay.
I'm starting the timer at your first word.
All right. So for the people streaming with me, just tell them to go get a drink or something, because I'm starting over. All right. If it wasn't apparent from a cursory glance at the discourse surrounding critical race theory in the news and the never-ending flow of toxic sewage that is social media, most of the debate on the topic is using CRT as a stand-in target to advance, via attack or defense, their view of America's path forward. CRT is not merely saying that racism is bad, nor is it a cloak and dagger shield for the destruction of Western civilization, and you should ignore anyone trying to reduce it down to either of those paltry explanations. Thus, most people lack any meaningful understanding of what critical race theory actually is, instead blindly attacking or defending both the concept and the legislation removing it based on willful ignorance and a need to take a side in the cultural proxy war. CRT is a broad lens of legal and societal analysis that formed collectively amongst many scholars and over many years. Is everyone hearing me before I continue?
Yes, they're saying they're hearing you.
Okay. That said, according to the authors of the textbook cited by most critics, by Richard Delgado and Gene Stefancic, as well as the American Bar Association, there are about four key tenets that consistently show up in CRT-inspired conversations. 1. Recognition that race is not biologically real, but is socially constructed and yet socially significant. 2. Acknowledgement that racism is a normal feature of society and is embedded within systems and institutions, like the legal system, that replicate racial inequality. 3. Rejection of popular understandings about racism, such as arguments that confine racism to a few bad apples, or that racism must be intentional and explicit. CRT recognizes that it is the systemic nature of racism that bears primary responsibility for reproducing racial inequality. And 4, the recognition of the relevance of people's everyday lives to scholarship and embracing the lived experiences of people of color. All of these tenets can be supported by mountains of both historical and empirical data, but at its core, CRT is a lens of interpretation, one that places the role of race in society front and center. Opposition to the teaching of CRT in school, therefore, is at best a declaration that race should not take front and center stage in any point in a K-12 setting, and at worst, a declaration that it should not be discussed at all. All accusations of anti-white racism must be analyzed alongside the fact that, thanks to centuries of history and a deep-seated attachment to the status quo that conflicts with outwardly stated values of equality, according to a 2011 study published in Perspectives on Psychological Science, white people, on aggregate, view racism as a zero-sum game, such that decreases in perceived bias against black people over the past 6 decades are associated with increases in perceived bias against white people, a relationship not observed by black people. This bleeds into politics, and that despite supposedly living in a post-racism society, whites who are made salient of the fact that we are set to become a minority by 2042 tend to endorse more conservative policy positions. The best explanation seems to implicate group status threat as the mechanism for why this might be. Indeed, whites high in salient racial identity overwhelmingly supported and support Trump, as he seemed to be the candidate most poised to halt the culture shift that had nothing to do with race. This feeling is perhaps best summed up by then U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions in 2009. Empathy for one party is always prejudice against another. When your way of life is considered normal, when your race or your gender or your sexuality is seen as default, it's very easy to misconstrue the introduction of other perspectives as an attack on your way of life. And that brings me to the notion that CRT is somehow indoctrination when taught to children. In my home state of Kentucky, the social studies curriculum introduces the concepts of community responsibility and the importance of rules in kindergarten. And by the time they exit elementary school, they've learned about colonization, slavery, and the circumstances of voluntary and involuntary migrants to this country. A school curriculum that glosses over the role of slavery in the past and its impact on the present is at best incomplete, One that forbids the discussion entirely or only allows the perspective that racism is a thing of the past is nothing short of propaganda. Critics of CRT, including Donald Trump, point to its divisiveness as a reason to keep it out of schools because they don't want the norms of society questioned or the moral greatness of America challenged. That America was inarguably founded on white supremacy, and that the attitudes and values of our founders perpetuated abhorrent conditions for non white people in this country that are still felt today, is either downplayed to preserve the idolization of said founders or ignored altogether by people who have the gall to say that America was founded as a free nation. From what I've seen, that's the core opposition. That's the core of the opposition to CRT in general, and CRT in schools in particular. The horrible anti-white racism shown in the assignments or seminars that make the rounds almost always amount to whether the fairness of one's lot in life might have something to do with historical and current racial hierarchies, and whether or not white people might have a motivated reason to perpetuate that hierarchy to some degree or another. Pay attention to how the banning of CRT in schools has coincided with an expansion of what CRT entails. According to self proclaimed CRT expert and licensed massage therapist James Lindsay, if your kid's school is teaching about white privilege, systemic racism, racial equity, or racial justice, it is teaching critical race theory. If this becomes the case, the American ideals of freedom, justice, and equality all become meaningless because they get to be defined by those threatened by those ideas, by a group of people who silently believe that racism is over and that whites becoming a minority spells doom for the nation. CRT is an important perspective that provides more value existing, even it than not. It is a lens that places race front and center, not the end all be all claim to
6 minutes.
understanding the entire universe. Like any other lens, its use can be limited or poorly executed, but being exposed to and contemplating perspectives other than our own is not anti-white or anti-Western, and especially not anti-American. In fact, it's about as American as it gets. And that's my time.
All right. AST, do you want to go ahead and take over?
Yeah, so I think Jangles touched on everything that I was gonna say. So I'm just gonna defer to the other team.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh,
So
wait. Before you do that, let me go ahead and take care of my housekeeping uh, relevancy. You know what? Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I have lost my notes here. Just want to let everybody know if you have any questions or super chats, please tag them at Modern Day Debate if they're unpaid, and we will add them to the list if we can get to them. Super chats will have priority. Uh, 1 second, just gotta type in this real quick. Okay. Remember to attack the argument and not the person. Ad hominems and personal attacks will not be read. We are a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We want everybody to feel welcome no matter what your views are. Our guests are linked in the description, and if you're listening via podcast, you can find their links there as well. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We have a lot more live debates coming. You don't want to miss that. And with that, we will go ahead and kick it over to Rob Knorr and Conspiracy Castle. The floor is yours.
oh, well, it looks like I'm
Word.
It looks like I'm going first. Well, I'm Primetime 99 Alex Stein. I'm on the grind all the time. And let me tell you my first problem with CRT or critical race theory. Of course, racism exists. I'm going to get real. I'm not going to lie and say that there aren't racist people in the world. That is insane. But what the most insane thing that critical race theory states is that race isn't real and that it's a social construct. When you just know genetically and biologically that's true. That's the same mindset as saying a person that transitions, a man that transitions to a woman, should be able to compete against a female that he's not the biological same sex as. I mean, it's the same idea as, going against our biological science. So we're going against objective facts. And we're throwing those to the wind. So that's like one of the big things, the fact that race isn't real. We shouldn't teach that. So that's kind of my biggest issue. But it goes more into that. See, it's based in Marxism. And the idea of Marxism is there's no individualism. It's all communalism. And so when you really think about when we were in school, we had to read a book called Brave New World. We had to read a book called 1984. And in those books, basically in the future, the world is such a communalistic state, you can't even feel love, because love is the idea of possession or ownership. And that's what critical race theory does. It takes away our individualism and our ownership. And that's the main problem that I have with it, because what it does is it focuses people that are victims of intersectionality. Now, what is intersectionality? Let's say you're like a black woman and and you want to do some activism, so you join a woman's a woman's suffrage movement or something, a woman's rights movement. Well, the woman would say, even though she's a woman in that group, since she's a black woman, that she is less than the white women in that group. And let's say she was at a black rights movement. She would say in that movement, she was a victim of intersectionality because she is a woman, even though she's black in the black group, she's a woman. So what happens is we find the victims of intersectionality and we put them at the forefront. It's not this style of equity or equality. What it is it's the absolute upside down world that tells you that race isn't real, and it creates this sort of class and social structure that's taught in schools that, let's be real, we already know stereotypes. People believe in stereotypes. We already have preconceived notions of people. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, people aren't racist. That exists. That's not my issue. I do think we do need to address racism in the world. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh my God, there's nobody that's mean to everybody. But the idea that you're going to fix it by teaching kids Marxist values that are based in the idea of conflict theory, what that does is that positions us against one another. So it's going to create a future where all we do is hate one another because it's based in Marx's conflict theory. So you have to think about that idea. In the future, if you actually want a society that is some sort of utopia where everybody's getting along, then creating social classes and saying that race isn't real is like saying 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. You're actually living in the upside down clown world. And that's the problem with the whole idea of critical race theory for me, is it takes objective facts and throws those to the wind in the idea of communalism. So it takes away the individualism of the person. I've said this multiple times. You have to realize that's a big deal to me. I'm Primetime 99 Alex Stein. I'm one of the most individualistic guys you know. I'm the king of individualism. So if I could ever be a student in this day and age where I would have to be persecuted just because I'm a white male, and I'm saying it's not even that it's anti-white. It's not even that. I'm not even trying to say that's why I feel so demonized. I'm not. But at the end of the day, even they say it in their own literature, that is the person at the top of the intersectionality section is the white male. So for me, being a white male, I would have to be taken away from the center. Even though you're part of the majority, what happens, because I'm a white male, inherently I'm racist because I'm part of a racist structure. I don't think that's fair. That doesn't put, like Martin Luther King says, to judge people by the content of their character. Now you're judging us by groups of people, which is not fair. And so I don't want to be judged by some white trash guy. I mean, I'm white trash. I'm not just saying that, but it's unfair. What it does is it creates social structures and lumps in people that are unfairly grouped, and it throws the baby out with the bathwater. Because what happens is when you throw out every single white person, you say every single white person is racist, what that does is that actually creates racism. That actually makes people think, oh, well, why would I want to be nice? Why would I even want to help out people if they're already going to think I'm racist? And that means they're always going to have their guard up. They're always going to be defensive. And that's what it's meant to do, because it's based in Marx's conflict theory. And the idea of you have to change the universe or change the world themselves. That's why it's created out of these indoctrination programs in these colleges like Yale, in these Ivy League stuff, the same schools that were the Rockefeller and Rothschild, in order to make students that were just basically slaves, that just were, good order followers. That's what they want. They don't want to create creativity or individualism. What they want you to do is they want you to be a slave. They want you to go to college and get in $100,000 of debt, and they want you to just be in the rat race the rest of your life paying off that college debt. And what critical race theory does is now it puts a bunch of African Americans and people that may not have gone to college, and even puts them in that situation, so now that they can exploit even in all the races they do with the schooling. That is just insane. And look, listen, all I have to say is this: when it comes to the student loans, Joe Biden's not going to lift any of those. If you don't think that these colleges and their endowments are manipulation machines, then I'm just telling you, these schools are basically evil organizations. And I've talked over my time, but
that's 6 minutes.
There you go. I'll defer to you, Rob.
All right, thanks so much. So first we have to ask, what are schools for? Schools are to teach education and basic curriculum of things like mathematics, history, language, reading, and we agreed on other things like we used to do shop class, which we sorely miss, other things like that. Critical race theory at its core claims that anyone who disagrees with them is acting in a form of racism. This is not science or education. So the neat little trick that they've set up is if you disagree with the premises that they've set, then you're acting as racist. And in fact, they've set all of these dichotomies up that it doesn't linearly make sense to listen to them. For example, as we'll get to throughout the debate, you're considered culturally appropriating if you want to do things that you see in people of color's culture. But if you don't express enough interest in people of color and their culture, then you're considered racist for being standoffish. Similarly, if you object to the teachings that you see in critical race theory, according to them, that's just more evidence that you're racist. And that's one of the fundamental reasons that we shouldn't allow this to be taught in school, because it is a religious cult. It is something that seeks to only go after people as heretics, and it's non-falsifiable. You can't point to data sets, you can't point to other arguments, because they say, oh, all of that's deflecting from racist, which means you're racist. Right? That's what they'll say. The other reason to reject this is because it is in fact racist. And yes, it is racist to people that they consider oppressors. I do think that Alex was correct that this does come from a sort of Marxist tradition. And you don't even have to use the word Marxist. It seeks to identify the world as oppressors versus oppressed, and it takes away individual agency. Now, this is bad if you're the group that's considered oppressor, in this case, white people, because you're considered that nothing you could do can escape you from this role as an oppressor. You're no longer an individual. And you can see in the definition that was given by our opponents, intent doesn't matter. That's right. No matter what you do or what you intend, if you're white, you are racist, and you are engaged in a system that is racist, and you could never escape that. The most prominent critical race theory author in the world today is Robin DiAngelo, who wrote the book White Fragility. Also, Ibram Kennedy. Both of them claim things like that to reject the idea that all white people are racist and live in this racist society is actually just more evidence of racism. And so that in itself is a form of racism. Telling people that they are racist based on their skin color is a fact of judging someone based on their race, which should be rejected. And we prescribe specific instructions for how those people must act based on their skin color, another form of racism. We also see that it's racist towards people of color as well, though, because it operates in this form of a bigotry of low expectations. The way that what makes us human is the decisions we make and our personal agencies. One of the most inhumane things you could do is stop treating people as an individual with agency and instead treat them as a group that are perpetual victims that could never overcome that victimhood status, because the system we live in that's being taught in critical race theory says that this racism will be ever prevalent. So I just want to go through, there's two things that we need to look at this. First, are the claims of critical race theory accurate? I will argue that they're not accurate, including the claim that race isn't biologically real, including the claim that we have to reject the intentionality of racism. It sounds good on face value, but when you look at how it's practiced, what we see is that it's actually used to do sort of Maoist struggle sessions where we force students as little as kindergarten to admit their racism and their shame. We tell them that they have to allow people of color to yell and scream at them. We tell them that if they get upset by this, that's more evidence that they're racist. These are the ways these things play out in actual practice. And what we'll see probably from many people that endorse critical race theory is they employ the no true Scotsman's fallacy. Oh, no, that's not what I mean when I talk about it. The truth is there are a litany of definitions we could give for critical race theory, and we could talk about those specific definitions, but we ought to talk about how it plays out in practice. Because if we have a system that is justifying racism and going after people in these ways, then it needs to be rejected on face value. The other thing we need to ask is critical race theory used well? Is it working? It is not, as I'll provide evidence that it actually increased division. As critical race theory has been promulgated more in academia, we've seen the division increase from both whites and from people of color. Lastly, there are certain things that don't make sense. For example, if this was a white system set up to benefit white people, why are Asians and other ethnicities outperforming white people so significantly? It would seem that if this racism was ever prevalent and created by people in positions of power to maintain that power, it's doing a very poor job of which. How much time do I have left? I'll read a bit of an article. If I
We got 2 minutes, I think.
Oh, excellent. We can also see that when we talk about the need to reject white fragility and whiteness, that it's often employed in ways that is racist, again, towards minorities. For example, the National Museum
About
of
1 minute.
African American History talked about in their employment of critical race theory that we need to reject whiteness. Some of the things they defined as whiteness was the individual, self-reliance, independence is highly valued, a nuclear family, emphasis on objective, rational, linear thinking, cause and effect relationships, hard work is key to success. If you should work before you play, um, being on time, respecting authority, planning for the future. This is horribly offensive and racist to people of color. If you want to work hard and have a family, that's engaging in whiteness. And it's these sorts of things that actually seek to harm the very people that critical race theory claims to be trying to help. The last thing I'll read is a little bit from how critical race theory is being employed in Portland right now. I've spent the TR2 Loudoun School District. Let's see.
About 10 seconds.
Educator. Oh, only 10 seconds. I'll wait then. I'll just yield the rest of my time. No problem.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for those opening statements. And we're about to kick it into to open dialogue. Just want to quickly remind everyone to, again, if you're going to send in a super chat or a question for the debaters, please remember to attack the arguments and not the debaters, and to respect the moderators in the chat. And again, their links are in the description, so please smash that like button and subscribe. And again, the floor is all yours, guys. Go ahead and have your open discussion.
Okay. So if you don't mind, if I could ask first, one of the things just listening to you talk, Jangles, give that explanation. And in my reading of critical race theory, do you think that racism is always prevalent?
Always prevalent in some form or another, but then again, if you go by the definition that racism must be explicit, that you have to like have an actual malice against somebody. But I think in a lot of circumstances, the bar for racism should be set a lot lower. Historical circumstances are real, time is linear, and things that happened in the past that all of us hopefully would consider objectively racist still manifest themselves today in material circumstances by a wide variety of people.
Okay,
right?
so is it just prevalent amongst white people and white societies, or is this same sort of racism also prevalent in any society that has power structures?
I'm sure if there's a society with a history of racial categorization or ethnic separation or ethnic hierarchies, I'm sure that would exist as well. But I'm only familiar with America. So.
Okay, if it's true and critical race theory does propose it, there's either one or two explanations. It's that white people are uniquely in the ability of always being racist, or if it's that all structures will exist like this. How is your very teaching and embracing of this not encouraging actual more racism?
This is what
which it is, which I could, and let me explain just briefly, if I could explain briefly, because what you've done is you admitted that by 2044, whites will no longer be the majority. But wouldn't that just mean that the new group that will be the majority will actually employ the exact same systems? Even if it's not employed in the exact same ways or to the severity of, inevitably they will develop power structures that will result in their in-group preference, maintaining illegitimate power over others. So isn't it true then that whites will then just be people of color? And if so, when you teach white people this, how do you expect them to react?
Hold on. Let's go step that one at a time. Well, the reason I wanted to interrupt you is that something that both of you, I cannot believe both of you disagree with. Both of you think that race is biologically real. This is just scientifically incorrect, and we'll get into that here in a second. But one of the purported like tenets of critical race theory is that race is not biologically real, and therefore white people are not inherently anything. All right, we are products of our social environment, and it doesn't have to be explicit. This is another thing. Like when you have your expectation of racism said to be like, I hate you because of your race. That bar for racism is very, very, very hard to meet, and it's very easy to skirt under if you know what you're doing.
Well, one thing, dude, you're telling me I'm the same as Hakeem Olajuwon? No way, dude. When I'm naked, dude. Hakeem Olajuwon is a different race than me, dude. That's not racist. That's real, dude. He's different. I'm just saying he's different.
Let me interject here. So, critical race theory is descriptive, not prescriptive. Critical race theory says that this is how things are, not how they should be.
But me and Marshawn Lynch are not the same race, dude. I just want that to be known.
Guys, let's stop. Do we need to go into 3-minute intervals?
No, we
can go into 3-minute intervals.
No.
I'm good for the blood sports.
But just respond to
okay. Everybody, stop. Everybody, stop. I'm stopping the timer. I'm stopping the timer. Everybody, stop.
Stop the clock.
Everybody, stop. Everybody, stop. Okay. Who's still talking? AST, chill. Stop. Everybody, stop. Everybody, stop. We got to stop talking over each other. We're going to do that?
I think you're
Guys,
listening
I
to a
think you
different
might
feed.
be behind. I think you might be listening to the video, not the call.
The Zoom call. Yeah.
We weren't talking when you were just yelling all that stuff.
Really? I'm sorry. I'm
It's
listening
all right.
to a lot too. Okay. My bad. I'm messing up too. Okay. Are we good? Are we stuck? We good?
Yeah,
We're
no,
good.
we're good.
Yeah. We don't need 3-minute intervals or anything. Just
All right,
go.
go ahead.
Okay. Rob
Go,
was
go,
going to
go.
say something.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, ST. It also does talk about how racism's inevitable. It talks about this. For example, when you read a lot of Robin DiAngelo and what she writes, she says that the struggle will never be over. That saying that we could just obtain goals and therefore we need to avoid the struggle is itself a form of racism. So this racism will always exist, and it exists in everything to varying degrees. So it's not just as simple as saying, well, this system is the way it is, but it could possibly change. It can't change. It could only get better, but it could never be solved. That is a core tenet of critical race theory.
So this is something that's going to absolutely destroy this discussion and anyone's going forward. So you kind of preemptively said that we're going to employ the no true Scotsman fallacy, and that, well, that's not critical race theory. But no, how can I physically answer? How can I intellectually answer for someone else? I can tell you what I think the CRT is. I can tell you what the tenets that I agree with, and I do agree with most of them. That's all I can do. And by the same token, you saying that thing in Portland or that or whatever. No, that's the true Scotsman of CRT. Again, we cannot have a productive conversation. All right, let's talk one on one. Let's talk about our own opinions and stop asking each other to answer for like representative.
But again, this is something that you see. How can we have a conversation if we can't agree on what the terms mean? So what we should do is look at how it's employed in the way that it's employed in the real world, right? So saying, oh, well, I disagree with all the ways that it's employed in the probably hundreds of examples I could bring up. I disagree with all of those, but my critical race theory is different. No, we should look at how it's being employed. That's why this is a topic, because we're starting to pass laws that say we reject this being taught because they're seeing how it's being taught. And there's a pushback, including from the liberal left, particularly in the K through 12, saying this is insane. Like lining up kindergartners and telling them actually linear thinking in mathematics is racist and that you shouldn't have to show your work or that's a form of racism, which I can provide all the evidence that these are things that have been suggested. That is a form of racism and it's destroying education. So why should we ignore all that because you define it differently? And I'll say real quick, even with your current definition, I could show you based on your definition how it actually leads to that being taught that way. So the definition you've given is also dangerous. And
cool, because my definition is supported by mountains of, like I said, historical and empirical data, and I'm happy to defend my position.
Okay, for example, you say that the part of the tenet of critical race theory is, well, first, you just on the biology really quick.
I know, I'm really interested in how you think race is biologically real.
Sure. Paleontologists could look at bones from thousands of years ago and determine one of three major ethnicities of race.
Cool.
If it's biologically not real, how's that possible?
Where do those categories come from? They come from biology? Do they say that, hey, like based on where you came from, like in your ancestry, like we can like sort of guess you? Do you think that like there's a distinct biological separation between black and white and like, I don't know, Asian?
Yeah, but think about real quick, and think about all the other species that have. I mean, you're telling me you honestly really believe that we're all the same? I mean, are you trolling with that?
There's more genetic diversity within African populations as there is between African populations and European populations.
Oh,
that is a biological genetic fact.
Dude, that's fake science. No, it doesn't hurt my science. I'm just saying.
Science?
Yeah, that's not true, dude. That's not.
Really? Look it up.
Guys,
I mean, that's just, dude.
Hey,
that's
Praise,
just not.
Can you hear me? Can you turn on the slow mode in the chat, please?
And I'm not anti. I mean, I don't. I would love to be black. I'm a culture vulture, dude. I mean, and I consider myself. I'm not some conservative. I'm not some freaking. I'm just saying, critical race theory is absolutely.
You're certainly not a geneticist.
Listen,
either are you.
If I may, I don't see how what you said is responsive to me. If it was true that this was all socially constructed, could you just explain to me how paleontologists will be able to look at a skeleton from 5,000 years ago and identify differences between one race and another?
And black people have an extra bone in their foot. Black people have an extra bone in their foot. I don't have that bone.
Okay, because the categorizations that we employ to arbitrarily decide, if we just decide, okay, black people tend to come from this place, Asian people arbitrarily come from this place, white people tend to arbitrarily come from this place. Depending on how far you go back in your ancestry, all of us are going to come from Africa anyway. So yeah, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, and I don't like this, like it's seemingly conservative definition of social construct to mean it's not real. But the arbitrary set points of those categorizations are like I said, arbitrary. So was Obama black? And the answer to that is yeah, we all considered him black, even though he was half black, half white. But we considered him black because race is a social construct.
Nonetheless,
And
so
Yeah.
we can see that it's not. I think clearly from that, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. We can move on.
okay, you can just
We're
continue.
just going to agree to disagree,
Yeah.
but we can move on. Like for example, the lived experiences. So we have to employ one of your four definitions was that intent doesn't.
Oh no! I gotta say this. So Rachel Dolezal, she's the fake race baiter. You know Rachel Dolezal? No, I have to. Do you know who Rachel Dolezal is, Jangles?
Yes, I know who Rachel Dolezal
Okay,
is.
so Rachel Dolezal identified as black, and so since she was constructed socially as black, was she actually black or was she white?
Fuck, dude, I'd love to have a conversation about that. I think that's an interesting.
Yes, white or black? Was she white or black, bruh?
I don't know. I think it's a really interesting conversation.
Oh, so you're saying so that shows you how dumb you are. Rachel Dolezal, born to both white parents, you think she's black. That shows you that you're an idiot. That's all I need to know.
Honey.
But go ahead. Honey, you're an imbecile. A girl with two white parents, you're calling her black. That shows you how you're not basing objective facts. You're an idiot, dude. I mean, I hate to be rude, but that's just idiotic. I'm not. I apologize. That's just absurd, dude. To say a woman, which that's true. My microphone's not set up that well, but I'm not a tech geek. I'll just tell you this much: Rachel Dolezal has two white parents. She's not black, but you are so insane that you think she is.
She was black, or
Yeah, you skirted it. You wouldn't admit that she's white. You just did that, bud.
I think it could be an interesting conversation.
You won't even admit that she's white, dude. You won't admit that is she white or is she black?
I'm so sorry that you're so opposed to like critical thinking.
No, I'm just saying you can't admit that she's white. You're not based in reality, dude. You can't even admit that Rachel Dolezal faked it. She had to apologize, so she would even say that it's not a social construct. So I'm just saying you can't even admit that. It just shows you that you're intellectually dishonest.
No.
Okay, if I can.
Is she black or white, bud?
If I could bring this, if I could talk about this. So
You won't answer it. You're a coward.
If I may, when we look at the idea of the fourth characterization of your definition says that we have to identify with the lived experiences of people of color. So I think the point that my partner's trying to make here is how can we determine what is a lived experience of a person of color if race is only socially constructed. So the reason that part's in there is because when you get into the nitty gritty of how this is practiced, people will say things like this: I was pulled over by the police because I was black, or someone asked me if I worked at Walmart because I'm black. They asked me to grab something from a shelf, which famously, I believe Michelle Obama claimed at one point. And when you point out, well, wait a minute, there's a litany of other reasons they could have thought that. They'll say, you don't know, my lived experience of a black person is more important. But the problem is, one, that's bad for reasons we'll get to in a second. But second, who's to say who's a black person? How do we know who's inherently racist, what these structures are?
What do you think socially constructed means? I want both of you to answer that. Because
Socially constructed means Rachel Dolezal is born from two white parents and she can put on black makeup and dye her. So she's socially constructed. Listen, I study sociology. It's basically how society views your social standing. It's nature versus nurture. So it's a nature around her, and that's why she did it. So she loves black culture, so she pretended to be black. She's not black, dude. You can't even admit that Rachel Dolezal is not black, dude. So you don't even have any leg to stand on. You're in the upside down world. You're like in Looney Tunes, bud. Rachel Dolezal has two white parents, and you can't even admit that.
I think that's super rich for someone who just rejected a true statement about genetics.
Dude, you rejected a true statement that both of her parents are white. You can't even admit that she's not black. You won't even admit it, dude. You're just a coward. You won't even stand behind what you say. It's just you spit this psycho babble out, and you won't even stand by it. It's just absurd. It's fine.
Okay, Rob, since he's very upset, can you define what you think socially constructed means?
Sure. Socially constructed means that there's not a biological reality, and instead society using arbitrary markers have determined definitions of things.
Cool. I actually agree with that. So, but does that mean socially constructed things don't have enormous impact on our society?
No, it wouldn't mean that, but the problem is we often claim things. You see this happen on the left a lot. People often claim things are socially constructed when they're not, and it's problematic to do so because, for example, if I were to talk, there's all sorts of like things that just don't jive with this, that are contentious with each other, right? So, for example, if I were to say, we're going to dole out additional farm aid to people based on their skin color because we need some form of reparation because this country has historically treated people of color poorly. And someone says, I agree, and I'm a person of color, because there is no genetic identifier to what a person of color is. It's just arbitrary rules constructed by society. And I reject the arbitrary nature of how they've constructed these definitions and choose to define myself as else. So now no one can have an authentic lived experience as a person of color, because anyone who chooses to be a victim and to be otherized would say, yes, I've basically had the experience of a person of color. And this matters because we could see that according to the definition that you gave, right, the idea is this system's been promulgated by white people in order to entrench white people at the top. But the problem is white people are something like 13th by every metric that we use to determine success in this country.
Hold on. Let's at least agree on this. The founding of the United States in 1776, okay, that was founded by white people for white people, right? We can at least agree on that. Those were white supremacists by our definitions. They entrenched white supremacy they founded the Constitution. They said if you are not white, you are not a citizen of this nation. Not only that, but you can be a slave and you can be subjugated and you have zero rights. Can we at least agree on that?
Yeah, I believe racism is real. I'll give you that.
Right. So what I would say is there were definitely racist beliefs and there were racist practices that were written into our laws, but the foundational idea of our foundational documents was one of people being created equal and focused on the individual.
See, this is what I don't like this no true Scotsman fallacy that you're saying. That wasn't real America. That wasn't the real American ideas. Like, no, dude, American ideas are whatever.
Nobody said that. I don't.
But again, what we're saying is that the way it was practiced, and this is constantly what you'll see. So all of the things we could talk about how absurd and nonsensical this position is and how it results in real racism and sort of this religious indoctrination. The defense will always be these following two things. The two things will be no true Scotsman, and it'll be, but racism happened in the past, therefore we're justified. No one's articulating that racism didn't happen in the past.
And racism happens currently. Two things. One. Okay.
AST, say something.
So he keeps going back to this religious indoctrination, and I want you to define religion for me real quick.
Sure. So in this sense, what we're talking about with religion is a belief that is non-falsifiable, that you believe that you have to, is an ultimate truth that you have to fight for.
And how is this non-falsifiable?
So for example, let me ask you, is our system, does critical race theory, and I'll ask you this, ASD, does critical race theory promulgate a system set up by white people to keep white people entrenched in systems of power?
No, as I said, that critical race theory is prescriptive, not descriptive. So,
prescriptively, does it say that it was a system set up by white people to keep white people entrenched in a system of power?
Yes, but
then why aren't they? Why are Asians outperforming them?
Do you think on aggregate that Asians control this country like they are in the highest institutions?
No, I think
let's look at historical
country. I think the idea that we could explain non-inequity or non-equal outcomes by simply saying racism is nonsense.
So here's the why tree. Here's the why tree that always goes down in these conversations. Why do you think that people of color, well, at least Black people and Hispanic people, why do you think that they are not doing as well by almost all metrics as white people?
It's great to have that discussion. Unfortunately, in a form of critical race theory, the mere fact that I will give alternative explanations would mean that I am in fact being racist.
Okay, how about this? Here's what critical race theory, based on my understanding of it and my own based on my understanding, critical race theory would say that based on historical circumstances of people who are objectively, undeniably racist, that either that perpetuates racism to today because, time is linear. People don't just magically stop being racist once a law is passed, and material circumstances that do not require active participation or active malicious racism to perpetuate these material circumstances. And this would explain why there are certain inequities. It explains why Asian people tend to not fall into the same bad outcomes as other people of color, because the immigration and the history of Asian people in this country are different.
So let's talk about the history of Asian people. Like, for example, that's a great point.
Most of the people in I think the Immigration Act in the 1950s or 60s, I can't quite remember the exact date, but most people coming here from Asia are a little bit richer, and so they're going to have.
So, for example, we can see that Japanese Americans far outperform white Americans. Let's look at the history of Japanese Americans in this country. Alien land laws prevented Japanese American peasant farmers from owning land and property for decades. 120,000 Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps during World War II. Assets, homes, businesses, and farms all seized and stolen. Under the Civil Rights Act
of course, and then there was immigration after that as well. Okay. Yeah, Japanese people have done
Okay.
more in
Moreover,
this
the
country.
internment resulted in a $3.1 billion property loss and $6.4 billion in income loss in 2014 without accounting for potential
All right,
investment.
before you keep going on this gish gallop, do you think that
He's
the internment
crushing
camps?
you.
Hold on, yeah, he's crushing me a lot, definitely. Do you think that the internment camps of Japanese people, which we all agree are bad, and actually still do perpetuate a lot of like Asian stereotypes here? Because again, Asian racism is like front and center right now. Do you think that this is comparable to the centuries of oppression that other people have experienced?
Well, it wouldn't matter if it was.
It would matter?
Let me articulate why. Like, it's hard to compare, but I will admit, I think that clearly we would say Black Americans suffered, I think, a longer history of abuse in this country. But that's not the point, because the point is we're not looking at Asian Americans versus Black Americans. The central supposition of critical race theory is that white Americans will remain at the top because all of these other races that they did horrible stuff to. If that's true, certainly they did horrible stuff to Japanese Americans, yet Japanese Americans, including multi-generational ones, so not just recent immigrants, tend to outperform white people in almost every metric. So why is that the case? It seems that this would be evidence against, and I go back to my original supposition, AST, to answer your question, this is why it's a religion. Because it doesn't matter if we present evidence that disputes the central claims. People say, nope, I don't believe it. It's still racism. That group just doesn't count then.
The core of your argument seemed to be that because some groups that have been persecuted are doing well, then other groups that are persecuted should just suck it up. That all the tenets of
that's not what I said at all.
No,
I didn't say
what he said.
My argument is
bring up the fact that some people that have experienced persecution in the country are doing okay. How is that in any way a refutation that other groups that have been persecuted in the country are not doing well? So what I would point
because the claim of critical race theory is the explanation from unequal outcomes when we see different races is that white people have abused them with policies in the past and have set up a structure to make sure white people remain at the top. If that hypothesis was true, we would expect to see all races that are non-white, particularly those like Japanese Americans that suffered concrete abuse.
Are you familiar with the history of welfare in this country?
Real quick, let me finish. We would predict, if your hypothesis was correct, that those people would be doing worse than white people, but they're not. What is your explanation for why Asian Americans, despite the abuse and inequity and abuse and these laws and this white privilege that was used against them, why are they outperforming white people? What's your explanation?
Well, one, Asian Americans are not a monolith. They come from a lot of different.
Well, Japanese Americans are.
Yeah, Japanese Americans. Okay. But again, a lot of that has to do with the immigration. Again, these two things are not analogous, right? It doesn't have to be that no one who has ever been oppressed in this society can ever go forth, and therefore that disproves oppression. What I'm thinking is let's talk about the history of welfare in this country. White people benefited a lot from welfare. They benefited from the Homestead Act. They benefited from lots of social programs that helped lift people out of poverty. They were given land. They were given houses. They were given lots of infrastructure to succeed. But the second that Black people were perceived to start getting close to more racial equity, suddenly white Americans started opposing those social welfare policies. So the same things that benefited white people in the past are now being opposed because the perception is now, well, they're not going just to white people, now they're going to those ungrateful Black people.
But I mean, this is the problem.
Wait, is there? I mean, but I don't think you're putting that position like we're all against social services. I'm not against social services. I mean, I'm not against welfare. I know, but I'm just saying, critical race theory is not that. I mean, this is a much deeper Marxist evil thing than just equality and equity. Like I said, it takes away the individualism of the person. I mean, it's an actual Orwellian nightmare is what it's creating. Do you believe that,
I wish I was so weak to think that this was an Orwellian nightmare. I cannot.
What are you talking about? What are you talking? I'm just saying, you can't see the plan that's in play right now, all the division that they're causing. You don't think that they're purposely trying to cause division with critical race theory?
Was there division during the civil rights movement in the 60s? Do you think there was racial division in this country?
Yeah, of course. Of course,
cool.
But they're trying to re-stir it up. Well, do you think is this the most racist time of your life? It is now because it's artificially created by the media, by the people in power.
I need you to answer this question.
Oh yeah. Okay? Well, I'll answer any question. Can you answer a question? Is Rachel Dolezal Black or white?
I don't think she is, but it's an interesting conversation to have.
You don't think she's
My
what?
position has not changed.
You don't think she's what? Is she?
I don't think she's Black, but I think.
Okay, so then already your argument's done because then social constructs don't decide your race. So if social constructs did, then she would be Black. So ipso facto, you're a liar. You're full of crap. So what are you going to be intellectually honest about? I will.
What do you say? What do you say that? Why is Obama Black? What do you say?
He's half Black and half white. His mom was white.
Do you think it's incorrect to call him Black? Do you think that everyone who called him the first Black?
No, but it's not incorrect to call him white either, in my opinion.
Okay, so most people would say that it's incorrect to call him white.
Well, let me just ask you.
But I wouldn't say that's incorrect because his mom's white.
Right, just
Oh,
real quick, like we don't have to take a. How would you then, because you're saying it's unfair to use other people's definitions, how would you define someone who's white and someone who's a person of color?
okay, a lot of it has to do with like what do they identify as? What do they feel most comfortable
Dude, you're
identifying? I'm gonna be totally honest.
insane, dude. That's not true,
Okay,
man. You're
I
hold
mean,
in.
on.
that's
If someone was a
Dude, you don't
let's
choose your
just
okay, dude. You don't choose your color of your skin, man. That's just not a black person would. And this is, of course, there's a bunch of idiot white people talking about race, but I'm just saying you don't choose the color of your skin. The fact you don't, cow, a tiger doesn't choose its stripes, bro. And the fact you can't admit that is very
right.
sad.
Okay, it's really weird that you're starting to like compare like racial groups of humans to different animal species.
I'm
That's
just trying
kind
to
of weird to
explain it
me.
so you can
if
understand, so
if
you
I
get a
can
better
if I
understanding
can
because you're in the upside down world, dude. You can't understand simple logic that having two white parents make you white. No, you get to choose your color. Like I'm sure you believe you get to choose your sex too. And it's funny
I
because
do.
I'm sure you're pro science, but yet you get to go against your biological
Oh
sex.
my goodness.
I'm just
Uh,
saying.
Actually, all the science points to
yeah, all
the
the science
fact
points that
that
way. Yeah.
Oh, you see, that shows fake
anyways,
mumbo
on this
jumbo
race,
science,
on this
dude.
race,
That's
should
absurd.
if
That's
I
just
can
fake.
if I
That's
can
fake
Conversation for
science.
another day.
That's just
Conversation
if
for
fake
I
another
can,
day.
science,
so
though. Yeah, yeah.
if I can, sort of like merging these 2 points. So when we say if race is just socially constructed and it's not real, so when we in critical race theory, for example,
Hold on, wait,
say
I gotta stop you. When we say that socially constructed versus not real, these two things are
not
not
bi-
socially
not
constructed doesn't
biological
mean not real.
reality. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, like language is socially constructed. It's real.
Okay. Okay. So it's not biological reality, it's socially constructed, right? So then when we say people of color have been oppressed, and we talk about the need to have, we need to listen more to people of color. What is a person of color? That's just someone, the shade of their color is irrelevant, right? When you're saying it's how they identify, if they identify as oppressed, that would be the characteristic that would put them as a person of color, correct?
Okay, do you think that okay? Let's say I identify as an American. America
Dude,
is a
it's just
social
because your
construct.
ideas are so hypocritical. That's why we can't accept them, dude.
Hold on,
Jangles,
no,
everything you're
I'm
saying
trying
is
to.
so hypocritical. That's why it's
Okay,
absurd.
awesome, so cool. Do you think America is biologically real? It exists in nature. Do you think
America?
America?
Is
Yeah, do you think it exists in
biologically
nature?
real?
Yeah.
Exists in nature. I mean, America is real. It's a country, but dude,
No, hold on. Does it exist in
this is,
nature?
dude,
Is the concept of it?
this is some
Answer the question,
bullshit
buddy.
question that doesn't have an
What?
answer, dude.
Oh
Yeah,
no, it
is
does have an
America,
answer, doesn't it?
dude? You can't admit
Guys, we are
simple
interrupting a little
things.
bit too much
You're
now.
trying to act like is America a biological being, dude? You can't even answer simple questions.
Looking at
That
you,
just,
Alex.
I'm just saying, you can't even stay on topic,
Okay.
dude, because Jangles,
I'll help you
you
out,
know,
buddy.
you're so
I'll help you out,
hypocritical.
buddy. I'll help
Alex.
you out, buddy. America is not real in any sort of biological or natural sense. It is a social construct. Now, does that mean that identifying as an American, it doesn't have some sort of basis in quote unquote reality? No, we are socially constructed animals. We are biologically social. Our social interactions
If
matter a
I'm
lot
born
to
in
us.
America, does that mean I'm an American?
I think so.
So I'm
I can't point to any.
biologically American when I
Yeah, I
travel
can't point to.
places. So I would be
Wait,
biologically
wait.
American. So
No,
I'm just
Hold
saying
on.
America is a
No,
biological thing.
No,
Let
no.
him
Yes.
get his point
Hold
out.
on.
That's
Let
what
him
I'm
get his point
saying.
out.
America is
Okay.
a biological thing. If I'm American, then
No.
America's a biological thing. Yes.
No, it's not because
I'm
Because
American.
you're
I'm
American
biological.
alone.
What you guys
I
can
am
laugh, but
so
what are you
glad
talking
you
about?
insulted my intelligence and then continued talking. It's the
Dude,
best
you're
combo
the
ever.
one that can't even admit a person with two white parents is white, dude. You're the one that has no idea. You're not based in reality, using a bunch of mumbo jumbo fake science. I mean, listen, I'm not here to say that I'm a brainiac. It's just you can't even admit facts. You can't even admit objective facts. You're saying 2 + 2 = 5. It's not even worth discussing with you because it's so absurd. And then AST
Alex.
can't even talk.
Alex.
I know, but this guy's a mute down here. He's a little wimp. He needs to say something. He's just sitting there not saying anything. I'd like to hear him say something.
Alex, let him get his whole
Okay,
point out
okay,
before
okay.
you
That's
cut him
nice.
off.
Okay.
Go ahead. Jangles, AST. Go.
yeah, Jangles. I think you were saying something.
Still afraid. Okay.
Wait,
Alex,
you rambled on. I
shut the fuck
forgot.
up, man.
You don't say anything, dude.
Alright, so
Talk.
I-
Why don't you
I wanna-
talk? You haven't said
It's-
5
it's fine. If
words.
he doesn't
Hold
have
on.
anything to say, it's fine.
That's
Alright,
fine.
hold
I'll
on.
take the time.
Just
I'll
make the
talk.
whole point.
Alex,
Let him get
Alex,
the whole
buddy.
point out,
All
Alex.
right, I'll just reiterate what I said because, man, you rambled on. No, America's not biologically or naturally real, but that doesn't mean our identification as Americans doesn't mean something to us, okay? All right, there's this dichotomy between if it's socially constructed, it's not real. It's a false dichotomy, and I wish people would stop doing it.
Okay, well,
Like,
that's fine. I used the word real. I should have said biologically real. The problem is, though, when you say that we can't look at the identifying biological markers and instead it's just about how you identify, then it becomes a matter of feelings. That's all this is. And when
how
you're
about
talking about a worldview that says one group of people will always be racist and we identify those people based on how they identify, it's quick to see how this system would be quickly abused. And then
okay,
once you apply how
here's a really interesting
Sure.
hypothetical. It's not even hypothetical; it actually happens. So there are Sikh people out there. All right, so a lot of Sikh people in the United States have been attacked based on anti-Muslim bias. Now they are not Muslim, but they are perceived as Muslims by idiot Americans, by ignorant, racist Americans. So we would say that the violence perpetuated against them had an anti-Muslim bias, despite the fact that they are not Muslim. Perception is reality for a lot of people. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter what your genes are. It matters what you're perceived as. All right, because that's
Nonetheless, you would say, but correct me if I'm wrong, you would say even the identification of Muslims incorrect because that itself is a social construct.
No, no, how else would you determine someone's religion based other than like
No,
self-identification?
when we say, oh, so you're just talking religion. So we're talking Muslim as a religion, not as an ethnicity. So we're
A lot
not
of people
saying
conflate
Arabic.
the two. A lot of people conflate the two.
Okay,
And,
well,
you
the
know what? I
problem is
conflated
that
the
you
two.
can't identify. Like, look, this is a distinction without merit. So what I want to do is because oftentimes this is what occurs. So we could have this conversation as we go forward about the reality of are these abuses all because of systemic racism? But we can't even define. We're just saying that anyone who identifies as oppressed could theoretically identify as a person of color. I don't identify as having embraced or garnered any privilege based on white society. So would I be a person of color?
No.
No.
Why? I don't identify as having any advantages from whiteness.
Do you identify as an American?
I do identify as American.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Anyways, so what I want to do is read something to you. Now I know that you will say this isn't necessarily what I'm defending, but my argument is this is how we see critical
Before
race
you read
theory
this out
playing
to me,
out.
do you think
I'm going to
there's
read it real
representative
quick.
of
I have a
race
bunch
theory?
of it. I'll read it real quick. I have a bunch that I could read, but I'll try to make it as short as possible. And I just want to ask you if you agree with how this is happening, right? Educators in the Teagar-Tualatin School District have gone all in on the social trinity of diversity, equity, inclusion. Last June, at the height of the nationwide unrest, superintendent and had a proclamation condemning racism, claiming to be an anti-racist school district. The preamble to the document recited the names of George Floyd, etc., and confessed the district students of color and black students, in particularly, regularly experience racism in their schools. To rectify this, they pledged to become actively anti-racist. The district announced a new Department of Equity and Inclusion and installed such activist Justice Zena Un as director. Un created a blueprint which I've obtained through whistleblower overhauling the pedagogy
Dude,
of the
you
school
can't
system.
you can't read out entire news stories in a debate. This is bad form.
Okay, I'm just getting to the point then.
No,
They follow prominent Marxist Paulo Freire. Following them, they write that the school district moved from reading the world to a phase of denunciation against the revolution's enemies. At the final stage, trainers plumb their subject psyches to ensure that whiteness has been banished. They describe the amalgamation of whiteness, colorblindness, individualism, and meritocracy as all being racist.
Cool.
Do you
Let's
agree
talk
with
about
that?
colorblindness. Hold on. Let's talk about colorblindness. Yeah, colorblindness in law can absolutely be used to advance racist measures. And I can
Individualism.
Okay, hold on. No, let's do one at a time. All right. This is
Okay.
why this. Hold on. This is why you want to talk like spat out 50,000 things and read an entire news
It's
article.
one article.
Let's talk about legal equality under the law. So historically, after the Civil Rights Movement, which again, as we all know, that ended racism. Civil Rights Act 1964 ended racism completely because now it's illegal to be racist. Well, in the aftermath of that, a lot of city pools and other public ordinances were supposed to be integrated. You can't publicly say that no black people are allowed in this pool. So they started to integrate. So what a lot of people did, because apparently after that act happened, a lot of white people were still racist. Funny that time is linear. Opinions don't change on the dime of a legal decision. A lot of white people were so against the idea of integration, so against the idea of sharing space with black people, that they voted to shut down their city pools. They voted to shut down their city parks. Was that racist? I want you to answer that, yes or no. Was that racist?
If you were making policies to avoid being with people of color, yes, that's racist. I would say, and the reason I would say that is because there's a biological reality to race that they recognize.
No, hold on. There doesn't have to be any at all. All right.
Then how did they know who was black?
Okay, 1 second. Okay, I want to come back to that. Holy shit.
They asked them, "Hey, do you identify as white or black?" Oh.
We've replicated a lot of this in-group, out-group stuff, which is completely arbitrary things. We're red cards, yellow cards. We've replicated a lot of this in-group, out-group stuff with stuff that are objectively not biologically real. All right. So if you perceive someone as black, they are black to you. But the answer to what I was trying to get at is that was not a racist policy. Right? Under equality under the law, it was deemed not a racist policy because they didn't shut down they didn't shut down the pools, they didn't shut down the parks for black people, they didn't disallow black people, they shut it down for everybody, and that's equality under the law. And we've seen that happen in modern day times.
So again, and this is what always happens in this. Like, you haven't used the word redlining yet. I'm sure you'll get to that. So what we do is we justify the abhorrent practices that we see being taught of critical race theory, and it's there was racism in the past. What does that have to do with the idea that we try to treat people? I believe there was a man once that said we should judge people based on the content of their character.
Can you all read one more thing that MLK said? Just one more. Just keep reading.
Let me ask you, just real quick.
It's because it goes against what MLK said. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, listen. You literally said
you honestly don't think.
Please let me finish. You literally said that colorblindness is racism.
And I gave you. Hold on. Stop lying.
Go.
No, I did not say that colorblindness is in itself racist. I'm saying that just because you are colorblind, you can't advance racist policies in that. And I gave you an example that you straight up ignored. I gave you an example where you agreed that it was racist, but the courts decided that since it did not, under colorblind racism, that the policy wasn't racist because it didn't target any races, even though it was obviously done with racist intentions. It was racist. But the courts decided there's a point there. We could see it happening today with things like voter registration. So the North Carolina voter ID laws that happened a few years ago, those were not racist under like the colorblind definition of the word, because no one could use those IDs. But the fact that they went in and like with surgical precision picked IDs that black people were more likely to use, it was deemed racist via intent, even though it wasn't racist under the colorblind definition of the law. We see this happening.
So here's the problem, right? One, you fundamentally misrepresent, or you're deflecting from what the question was. The blueprint that's been used in this school says that the following things are racist: whiteness, colorblindness.
Yeah, and we're going one at a time. I gave you an example
of
one.
No, you didn't, because you're not. I'm asking you, do you think her statement, real quick, yes or no, do you think her statement that colorblindness is racist is true?
I think it can perpetuate racism. Yes. And I think there's a lot of research.
That's not the same. Saying it can is not the same as saying it is.
Okay. Cool.
So, and here's the problem with what you're doing, right? So we see this, so you'll cite an example and you'll say, here's something that was done. It wasn't expressly called racist, but when we look, the intent behind it was racist. Therefore, that means that other things we see today must be the same way. And again, this is the problem that you often see with people that advocate this sort of critical race theory. They see something that they think has a disparate outcome, and the definition is always, it must be racism. So you'll say, in the past, we could see that a voter ID law was applied in a way that would be racist. Let's say that that's true. Does that mean that the current Georgia law is racist?
It could be, yeah. How are they doing it?
But it doesn't mean it is, and that's the problem.
Hold on.
And critical race theory, again, real quick,
and this is why
we see this being taught, what we see is they're saying it definitely is.
It seems to be that your bar for racism is just through the fucking ceiling. You have to say explicitly that I am doing this because I do not like this racial group, right? That seems to be the bar. But that's not how racism manifests itself in today's society, right? It was very, very easy for people to change their language just a little bit, to not be explicitly racist enough to get away with the law. Right? There's current research today to say that racial hiring disparities are still present. So there's a meta-analysis, like 28,000 different resumes sent, and black names statistically got 25% fewer callbacks.
Again,
all these things exist, and how can you prove racism with that without an experimental study?
Right? Okay, but here's the problem.
The thing is racism is it most of the time does not overtly present itself. Racism is something that you've got to kind of pick at. You've got to kind of like figure out who's racist by implicit means.
Right. Okay. But here's the problem, right? So you're accusing me of what's happening here is the exact opposite of in reality. What you're claiming is the exact opposite of what's going on in reality, because you're saying I've set the bar for what is racist so high that nothing could meet it. But the reality is you've set the bar for what is racist so low that you don't have to prove it. You operate under the assumption, just like critical race theory does, that says everything is racist.
No, you're not getting away with that. You're not getting away with that. Ask me to prove something I've said. I'll do it.
Okay, do you think the Georgia law is racist?
Not that do I think that the Georgia law is racist? I think that it's probably racially motivated, yes.
You think it is? Give me the proof.
Because there is no problem that is being solved, right? There is no evidence.
See, and there we have it. So you just think,
cool.
So your proof
if you
is no
stop someone when they're
solved.
explaining something, it's like their explanation isn't good or something. There is no problem to be solved here. There is no widespread voter fraud in Georgia. What they're doing is they're finding IDs that black people and other people of color are more likely to use and deciding arbitrarily, like, even though that there is literally no problem that we're solving here, because voter fraud is not a widespread problem, we're going to arbitrarily lower the amount of people that are probably going to vote. It's not saying that, if you don't have this form of ID, you can't vote at all.
Dude, how is that making?
How is that racist?
Making somebody show an ID to vote isn't racist.
Hold on. If there's no widespread voter fraud, before this bill, why did the bill need to be passed?
Well, first off,
Do you think that it has to
here's
be
the-
like?
listen, there is no the idea, even if there wasn't voter fraud in the past, which we could argue whether or not there was voter fraud, it's a different topic, doesn't mean that there can't be voter fraud in the future. 68% of African Americans polled favor of voter ID. Most blacks, when polled, say that they find it to be a bigotry of low expectations. That white liberals say that they can't figure out how to give an ID. There were things that were in the Georgia voting law that were first considered racist.
Do you think that that's it? Like, if you if you can figure out how to get an ID,
they said
it's all about setting up just small barriers. It's already too hard to vote in this country.
For example,
it's not too hard to vote in this country. Give me a break. Dude, it's too hard to vote. If you're not an idiot, if you're not a total insane autistic person.
Calm down for a second. Alex, I'm going to let you speak because you haven't said anything in a while.
Yeah.
And I want AST to respond to it. Okay? So, Alex, go ahead and take over.
No, but I mean, it's just absurd to say that it's so hard to vote. In literally every single high school, they'll do the voter registration for you in high school before you turn 18. I mean, and the idea that you can go online. Dude, first of all, showing an ID to vote is not racist. You have to show an ID to get on a plane. Is that racist? It's not. That's just how rules and regulations work. But you are a critical race theory, so you want to make everything about race. But that's the problem, is everything's not about race. You take away the individualism where you lump the baby with the bathwater. And AST, I mean, you haven't said anything. I'd really like to know, what do you think? I mean, you literally haven't said one thing. Like, what is your opinion on critical race theory, AST?
So my opinion on critical race theory is it addresses some very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? It addresses some things that need to be addressed. It addresses systemic racism. It addresses white privilege. It addresses white fragility. And while we're on this subject, I want to go back to Georgia. I'm from Georgia, don't live there now, but the county that was supposedly having the most voter fraud is Fulton County, and Fulton County is majority black. And I can't help but to think that the legislators in Georgia, with these new voter registration laws, had some kind of implicit racial bias when it came to Fulton County, because the majority of black people vote Democrat, and Georgia is a red state for the majority of the time.
And so what you can see from both of our opponents is here, they just say, well, we just feel that it's racist, therefore it's racist. So for example, one of the things they said was specifically racist about this bill was that it lowered voting hours on Sunday, and black people go to church on Sunday more on average than white people, and then like to vote after that. The only problem was this bill actually increased voting hours on Sunday. So the initial claim of why it was racist was then debunked, and it was the exact opposite of the truth. And so then they came up with more things. Let's say theoretically that Jangles is right, that there was no voter fraud. Doesn't prove there couldn't be voter fraud in the future. We see that the majority of black people want voter ID, but how, even if all that's true, and none of that's true, and it's just there was no problem, how does that prove racism? He just automatically, well, if there wasn't a problem, therefore an attempted solution to a problem that doesn't exist must be racism. And that's exactly what my point is. You can see this on every issue.
What was your
let's go to the big issue. Let's talk about, do you think
what was that your
law...
no, hold on, no, you're not doing this again. What was your response to that meta-analysis showing that black people get 28% fewer callbacks on resumes than white people?
There's all sorts of, but again, what you do is you cite a data set and then say the fact that this data set proves that there's some sort of inequity or that the outcomes are equal, that proves racism.
And this is what everyone does. If someone in an experimental setting, this was an experimental setting. They said they were able to put the exact same resumes, gave one a name that is heavily associated with black people, one a name that is mostly associated with white people, and we found a 28% disparity. This was the independent variable they were looking at, but this is what always happens with people like you. You say it can't be racism because racism can't be a thing.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have to, if you're making an affirmative claim that something's racist, you have to prove that it is. So for example, I'm very familiar. You asked me questions, so I'll respond. I'm very familiar with the study. So let's say that we took a name that was historically associated with white people, like this study did, and said something like Rob, and then a name that was historically associated with black people, like Shaniqua, right? Well, the problem is, what if you took a name that was historically associated with white people, like Bubba Ray?
Cool, you're using the class argument. You're using the class argument that is in one. You're referring to one study. I'm referring to it in meta-analysis. Right. So one study, the one that what is like Letitia or something, the one that's like heavily associated being representative of this, did take into account class. They did. You didn't read the study.
No, they did not.
They did. It's in the study that you're talking about.
So, for example, here's 5 things you could do. 1, stop using names. We've written this stuff before. Probably the best solution: stop using names to manipulate race and gender. Recent examined gender discrimination using only pronouns and found that STEM favored females over males 2-1. Second, choose many names.
Just moving the goalpost.
I'm not moving the goalpost. You asked.
So, Rob,
the problem is, you say when I talk about the things that we need to do to make a study like this better, because you just say, well, if
no,
let's call back.
I want to hone in on that right there. I want to hone in right there.
How am I supposed to talk when he's fucking?
Dude, you haven't said one word, AST. You don't want to
talk.
talk.
Not you, Jangles. Rob is taking up all the time. Hey, look. So, do you understand how they actually accounted for class in that study that you're citing?
Yes.
Yes. So you.
How did they account for class?
No. Yeah. Tell us how they accounted for class
in the study of names.
Yes.
In the study of it, you gave names. You want to know how they
No, they gave full resumes. How did they account for class?
Well, that's different than the question that was asked. The question that was asked to me originally was, how do you respond to the fact that people that had black-sounding names didn't get as many callbacks as people that had white-sounding names?
Yes, and then you use the class argument as far as like someone named Bubba Joe is going to be associated with a lower class
Why did you
person.
assume that?
Why did I assume that?
That sounds awfully bigoted of you.
I wanted to jump off a roof here. One, I wanted to hone in on something. You said, how can we make this study better? Your version of better seems to be, how can we make this study so that we can account for just anything, grasp for straws so that it doesn't have so that it gets the outcome that I want. You assumed that they didn't account for class. They did. And you just glossed over that. And this was one study. I cited a meta-analysis that was over like 25,000 something.
Dude, it doesn't matter what you cite, dude. You say race isn't real. So just objectively, you can't, 2 + 2 = 4, dude.
The fact that you still think that social construction means something isn't real tells me all I need to know about your honesty.
No, it just shows that you can't even be honest, dude. You can't even admit that Rachel Dolezal is white. You can't just admit. I'm just saying you can't admit that, dude. That shows you how dishonest you are.
Alex,
why even go on? No, it's not a straw. Is Rachel Dolezal white or black? Hey, AST, all you can say. You said what? Keep up with the straw man. That's the only thing you've said this whole thing. I'd really like to hear your opinion. You probably don't have one. I'm just saying, guys, what you're saying is absurd. It's really kind of sad. You guys are saying we're crazy, but what you guys are based in total infactual garbage is what you guys are based in. It's really sad.
I wish to watch this back and see how you've contributed to this debate.
So since
what have you contributed? You stunk, dude. You can't even admit Rob's crushed you this whole debate, dude. You've literally sat there and wet your bed the whole time,
guys,
dude.
Come on, let's chill out with the personal attacks. Come on, let's get back on topic.
Okay.
So since Rob can't explain how they accounted for class in the study that he's citing, in the study that he's citing, they took the 2 names on the resume, put them in the same school, gave them the same amount of education, gave them the same city or town or neighborhood that they lived in, and the historically white names were still called back 25% more than the historically black names.
What were the historical white names that they used, and what were the historical black names that they used?
So they would have used names like Chris or like.
Hey, guys, hold on a second. Praise, I'm getting a message in the live chat that there's something wrong with the template. Can you check on that? I think they can still hear you guys. So go ahead.
Yeah, no,
they can't see any of us. Anyways, so they would have used names like Chris or Alex, or they would have used names like John, and
those are the white names. What are the black names?
They would have used names like
Latarian, Jaquan.
Isn't that exactly what I said? Isn't that exactly what I said? Yes, that is exactly. Why didn't they use white names? Why didn't you use names like Bubba Ray?
In your reality,
All right, thank you.
The only thing that was on these resumes was the names. That's not true.
We have about 10 minutes, guys, left before we go to Q&A.
That's exactly what you said.
No, listen to me. Listen.
No, that is exactly what
the
you
best
said.
case scenario for you here is that.
Let me, if I could explain. Like,
no,
he's
I
not
think I need to
understanding
explain
what
to
I'm
you.
saying. So if I could explain what. The fundamental argument is everything was equal except the names. And because one name sounded white and the other sounded black, then the white person got called back more. My argument is It does. Okay, so I understand that everything else was the same. What I'm saying is, did the study use names that we consider with white people that would be considered fringe names that maybe parents that were of a lower class would use, like Bubba Ray? If we consider black names to be names like Shaniqua and things like that, why didn't they use historic black names?
This is the class argument, dude. It's a class.
What does it matter if it's your
best case scenario?
We're just getting off the rails here.
No. Your best case scenario for this is that people associated historically black names with a lower class.
Do you consider Bubba Ray with the? Do you consider Bubba with the lower class?
They accounted for class. People did not have an association with class for those white names.
No, you're just saying that, but you didn't pick. Like, again, this is the problem. And again, let's just like. We're not going to get to, suffice it to say, if people want to listen to my stream afterwards, they can go to my stream and I'll give all the examples of all the terrible things, forcing white people to admit they're racist until they're in tears, firing people because they refuse to engage in the idea that they admitted they're racist, etc. We see this happen over and over. But since we're not going to get to that, let me ask you this. And just real quick, do you think our law enforcement system is racist against people of color?
Yes.
Like there's a
disproportionate. And what is your evidence for that?
There was a
say,
study
or instead of leaving it open-ended, would you say evidence of that is incarceration rates, likelihood to be pulled over, etc.?
Yes. What is the likelihood to be pulled over? There's a study with millions of traffic stops, and they found that there's a disproportionate amount of people of color pulled over during the daytime that disappears during the nighttime. And there's no evidence that there's any sort of like driving disparities. In fact, black people tend to drive better than white people, because of that racial profiling thing. The only variable that could be accounted for that would explain why there's a disparity between white and black traffic stops, the only variable was race, or more appropriately, the officer's ability to identify the race of the person behind the wheel.
Okay, that's not true, and I've gone over those covered studies, but I will say this:
no,
those are the best. Those are the best types. For example, in all of the areas used, they were also pulled over in traffic areas where there were high amounts of fluorescent lights that would have made it easy to see the person of color. There were also other factors such as the likelihood of people going to work. But nonetheless, let's accept that it's true for a second. What would you say if I told you, and I'm quoting now, and I'll read slow so I don't get accused of gishgalopping. If you're a criminal defendant, it helps a lot to be a woman. At least that's what the research in federal criminal cases suggests. In Professor Starr's recent paper, Gender Disparities in Federal Criminal Cases, it looks at the federal cases and reveals significant findings. After controlling for the arrest offense, criminal history, and other prior characteristics, quote, men receive 63% longer sentences on average than women do, and women are twice as likely to avoid incarceration if convicted. The gender gap is, excuse me, let me finish last sentence.
Oh, we know, we get it.
Let me finish last sentence. The gender gap is about 6 times as large as the racial disparity.
Are going to love my answer to this. There's this thing called intersectionality.
Right.
Different things.
Right.
And yes, literally every single feminist theorist, which falls under the umbrella of critical theory, will say that men are disproportionately treated worse in the criminal justice system. I don't know what you thought you were scoring there, but no,
okay.
Not disprove that.
So if I may, if you'll let me explain what I thought it was proving, the overwhelming majority of critical race theory defendants would also claim to be intersectionalists, would also say that we have a criminal gender theory, right? And that critical gender theory would be that this system is set up by men to keep men in positions of power. They call it the patriarchy, correct?
This simplistic understanding of what power means. Do you think that?
Like, no. Is that not correct? Is that not what they say? That the system, just like the system is set up by whiteness to keep whiteness at the top, the system is set up by men to keep men at the top, correct?
Do you think that viewing a certain group as hold on, because you think that viewing a group as inherently weaker than another group, and therefore attacking that group is like somehow worse? Do you think that this is like, oh, this must mean that we hate men?
Okay,
no,
guys,
I think that
there are 5 minutes left. There are 5 minutes left. Rob, go ahead and respond to that real quick. We're going to let AST get a chance to say something before this all gets wrapped up here.
Sure. The proof is none of the people that are out there saying that it's evidence, the law enforcement, it's evidence that we need a radical change and that we need critical race theory to say everything is racist. They're not out there saying everything's sexist and against men, because when we look at the law enforcement numbers, they're 6 times worse between men and women than they are between blacks and whites. And most of the people that engage in critical race theory are intersectionalists that also decry how patriarchal our system is as well. The problem is this: you're looking at data sets and saying that proves racism. And again, the way critical race theory plays out, we've seen it all through here. When asked to provide how you have proof that specific things are racist, you just say, I feel it's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Really?
Therefore,
When
racism.
asked to prove it, when I say meta-analysis, after meta-analysis, that's just saying I think that it exists. This is the level of honesty that we are at in this debate. I said
What
in
are
a
you
meta-analysis.
talking we asked specifically to provide example of why the Georgia voting law was racist, and your literal answer was because I don't think the problem of exists that it's trying to solve. None of that has anything to do with race, but you jump from that to racism, even though 68% of blacks say we actually favor voter ID. Even though the law was designed to make sure that Sunday voting hours
well, I'm
were
glad that
increased
you
for black people.
value their lived experiences as black people, and suddenly that matters again.
Okay,
No,
AST,
and here we go. And
AST,
so-
Alex, do you want to have something to say?
No, I mean, these guys are crushing it. I mean, the problem is with critical race theory, I mean, I don't even know where we've gotten off to. We haven't talked about it being taught in school, but it'll never be satisfied. So that's why I say it leads us into that Orwellian nightmare. I mean, it's just going to get worse and worse and more racist and more marginalized and more divisive. And if you can't see that this is a Trojan horse for a very bleak future of division, then, I mean, I just can't help you because you can't even admit that Rachel Dolezal is a fake race trader and that you can't choose the race.
Whoa. What?
You
Wait,
can't choose.
what? A fake what?
Race.
A race what?
Bait.
Race trader?
Race baiter is what she is.
Hey,
Race
all right.
baiter. And
Okay,
and
just when you
first,
said trader.
well, I said baiter with a B. I guess your headphones. Maybe get some better headphones. But I'm just telling you, it'll never be satisfied, and that is in their own definition of what it is. So I'm not going to put some sort of snake that's just going to eat its tail. That's literally going to ruin society.
And I'll just to say that real quick, and that's a great point, Alex. Like again, when we look at the actual most successful authors of critical race theory, so in the book White Fragility, this is what it talks about. Here's one of the things it says: the question is not did racism take place, but whether how did racism manifest in that situation. Literally, they're admitting everything has racism. Everything has racism. And I'm sorry that Jacob.
Preconceived hate based on stereotypes.
Oh, cool. So you don't know. No.
Well, I mean, I know what racism is.
Okay.
So you're telling me I don't know what racism is? So you're telling me I don't know racism? Give me a break, bud. That just shows you how absurd you are. I don't know what racism is. See, that just shows you how intellectually dishonest you are. And it's like I'm debating a toddler when we're debating you. It's really sad.
AST, you haven't had a chance to speak in a long time. You've only got 2 minutes left. Just start us off. Go ahead.
Okay, so there were a couple of things that I wanted to get to in this debate, but between the Gish Gallop and all of that, we just didn't get there.
You didn't say anything because you're afraid. That's why.
Just wait,
shut up,
Alex.
Dude,
Alex.
shut up. Like, for real. You haven't said much either.
I said a lot more than you, bud. Way more than you. You
Just
said
let him
nothing.
speak
You
for a
said
second,
nothing.
guys.
You didn't even have an intro,
Alex,
bud.
Alex,
You didn't say
Alex,
anything.
calm down.
Enough.
Alex, calm down.
Come on.
Calm
We
down.
got
Fine,
2 minutes. Just let him speak.
Anyways, so disproportionately, the Black, Latino, all of those cultures are not represented in the U.S. House, in the Senate. They're not very well represented. Also, I want to go back to the whole color blindness laws in New York. The stop and frisk laws were proven to be racist in the way they were targeting. 9 out of 10 stop and frisk.
Nothing to do with
New
critical
Yorkers-
race theory.
I'm going to let them have the final word, Conspiracy Castle and Rob Noor, because you guys started it off. So go ahead and finish your thought. Let them finish off, and then we're going to go to Q&A.
This does have to do with critical race theory. It has to do with systemic racism.
And so this is why critical race theory should not be taught in schools because stop and frisk happened in New York. Give me a break, dude. Come on.
Right, and that's the point. If we get to finish it up, that's the point, right? I had told my audience beforehand that the two arguments that would be made the other side of the ledger was that's not real critical race theory, as we identified all of the abuses. We barely got to talk about them because of the way the debate went, but it literally says everything's racist. All white people are racist. They need to apologize. They need to go through struggle sessions. If they say, if you're trying to engage in Black culture, that's cultural appropriation. But if you're refusing to engage in Black culture, that's separationism, and that's racism in itself. Like, and what they're doing is, the other thing I said they would do is they will just point to historical racism, which I think both me and Alex agree, historical racism exists, and racism still exists today. None of that justified the teaching of critical race theory, which I gave you definitions which were untouched about what they define as whiteness. Linear thinking, mathematics, STEM fields. They say these things are whiteness and to be rejected. They're advocating a system. We see AP courses being removed from schools around the country because they're saying that Black people are in those enough.
Really
Therefore, we can't have advanced education classes. So they have not made one argument. They just literally do what I knew they'd do. That's not real critical race theory, and racism exists. Okay, how does that justify teaching this racist screed? That's what it is. Judging people based on their
this is my last thing. To Kill a Mockingbird is considered racist because it's called white saviorship because Atticus Finch helped out Boo Radley, and that was a black man. So I don't want to live in a world where a book about a white man helping a black person is considered racist. That's absurd. That's insane. That is not should be taught in school. No way.
Okay, and with that, we're going to go ahead and move to the Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this, please smash that like button. And once again, all of our speakers are in the description. If you enjoyed them, go ahead and check them out, and you can hear more from them. Let's go ahead and move to these questions. First question comes from Bubblegum Gun. I'm just going to quickly read through this, make sure there's nothing crazy. Race is real, but superiority based on race is wrong. Even the NATSOC knew subhuman existed under their race. Look at their poster of the subhuman.
Okay. Yeah, so that's demonstrably wrong. Like I was trying to say.
National Socialists? NatSoc?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no. It's the House and the Senate is disproportionately made up by old white people, and they're making laws for white people.
That doesn't explain why Asians are outperforming white people then. The problem is they just assert anything that has an unequal outcome is solely because of racism. They don't provide proof. They operate under the assumption of everything is racist, and then you have to prove that it's not. And as you attempt to prove it's not, they say you're racist from trying to deflect from the fact. That's what critical race theory is.
Apparently, the opposition to critical race theory is just to say any sort of meta-analysis, any sort of study, any sort of data that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that an independent variable of race is a factor in this is always going to be obfuscated, because the true opposition to CRT is not really rooted in anything that is based in reality. It's rooted in this notion that we already have racial equality because I'm happy, but it's this zero-sum game that white people perceive race in America as. That if black people gain status in society, that must mean it's coming at the expense of white people. By the way, black people don't see it that way. Right? The salience in white identity predicts support for both Donald Trump. It predicts support for conservative policies. And apparently racism has not been solved because, again, white people have this zero-sum mentality when it comes to race relations in the United States. And a lot of that opposition is saying, like, hey, if we start teaching that, historical circumstances have put black people in a bad circumstance, this notion of equality under the law hasn't gone all the way to, like, solving historical racism, that must mean that, I don't know, any sort of, like, actual policy to address this is going to hurt me because it's not helping me.
That's not what's going on. You can't just say anyone who disagrees with the idea that everything is racist and everything will always be racist, it must be promulgating racism. It's nonsense.
Who do you think that question was for?
I have no clue. I think they were just.
I'm gonna. All right, people. Socially constructed does not mean not real. I don't know why this is still a thing that we have to explain, all right? Language is socially constructed. Money is socially constructed. Countries are socially constructed. Borders are socially constructed. All of these things are socially constructed. They are real, all right? They are real in the sense that we perceive them as real. That's all socially constructed means. All right, there is no biological separation between black and white, all right? There's no, like, genetic lineage that you can say, like, oh, no, here's where the black people stops. Here's where the white people stop. We just point to, like, ancestry based on, like, country of origins, based on an arbitrary length of time that we've decided is truly where you're from. And then we can say, well, since that place we've decided that's where black people come from, therefore you're black. That's all that means.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Bubblegum Gun, $5. Scots and French are different races. Quote, white, unquote, isn't a race. Jews are not Germanic just for being, quote, white, end quote. Blacks have multiple races as Asians, etc. Who do you think that's for?
I think a white is a race, so I mean that's my answer to that.
The problem is, right, like, so this is often used. I would assume that's directed towards us. What they're going to say is all of these other races are actual races where white is just a conglomeration or a title that's bestowed. Therefore, it's not racist to say that there's white fragility or that all white people are racist because white isn't a race. White is sort of an identifying moniker, but that's not the way that it plays out in reality, because the same people, the claims that they're making of, people look at a person of color and judge them in negative aspects based on that. Critical race theory literally seeks to do that. It literally says that we look at people and say that they were born with original sin. If you look a certain way and identify a certain way, then you have been privileged by our system and you have racism. All of their teachings say this. You are a racist if you're white, period. You could say, but white's not really a race. Nonetheless, telling people based on the way they were born or based on their perceived skin color that they have some sort of moral inferiority is wrong, period. That is judging people based on their skin color, which is racism. That is
Let's
the
say
big
we have
reason that
two different
shouldn't
people.
teach
Let's say we have
this.
two people. One can trace their lineage back to some white family that benefited from the Homestead Act, which like plots of land and housing and all that fun stuff was given to white people. And then let's say we have a second person that is black that was denied those opportunities, denied housing, denied job opportunities. And let's say that we're looking at them right now. Would it be racist to say that this white person probably benefited from historical circumstances that privileged white people over black people?
So wait, you're saying that the laws of the day, both of these people, the laws that they lived through harmed them?
I'm
That's
saying
what you're saying?
I'm saying historical circumstances.
You're
time is
saying their
linear.
ancestors.
Yeah, I'm saying that I'm saying
Yeah,
that time is
it's
linear. Things that
it's
happened in the past
irrelevant.
have impacts on today.
Like the better question is this: let's say there's two farmers, one white and one black. Both of them are number one and number two of the poorest farmers in America. Does it matter that one had historical oppression in their family and the other one just had their family lose their money in the stock market? How is it relevant to those two individuals today?
What I love about this is that if we just wait long enough for a problem, we never have to solve it. If I burn down your house and then I just wait for a long time, well, I'm not going to burn down your house again, so problem solved. We don't have to fix any of
How
these.
far
What?
back are you
Dude,
willing
what
to
does
go?
that have to-
Real quick, how far
Dude,
back are
that's
you
a-
willing to go? For example, if we could find that a black African slave actually 300 years prior to that, his ancestors enslaved another population of someone who still lives somewhere in Africa, does that person get reparations from me because my ancestors were white? Then he has to give those reparations to someone else. After all, borders are just social constructs, right? So how far back are we going to go with this game?
Well, unfortunately, we can't trace black people's lineage back very far, can we, for some reason?
Certainly, we can as well. Many times we can. We have.
And I noticed you didn't answer my question. Is it racist to say that that person, that white person, is it racist to say that they probably benefited from white privilege?
Yes.
It is racist to say that?
Yes, it would be racist. How do you know? How do you know that that person benefited whatsoever?
Because we traced their lineage. We traced their circumstances of their
Okay,
birth. We traced
you know,
their
you
parents.
All
trace.
right, we really must move on. There are still questions coming in, guys.
Let's go.
So that's
All
not
right.
for racism against white people. Just so you heard.
We should be talking about critical race theory, but okay, let's go.
Next question is from Kiss My Converse Fool, $5. This is for you, Alex. Does Alex think he's a different race from Chris Hemsworth or Tom Brady because they are larger and more athletic and virile than him?
False. Tom Brady's not more virile than me. Whoever that said. I'm primetime 99. I'm the most viral man in the world. I have, a 12-inch wang. I rock out with my cock out. I'm primetime 99. They wish that. I actually, you're right. I am black. I actually identify as Hakeem Olajuwon because I have such large genitals. So that is true. I am not the same as Tom Brady.
I think I just got another one of this come in. Let me copy this real quick.
And I love Tupac, so socially constructed, I'm black like Rachel Dolezal.
Keep talking. I'm sorry.
No, I'm
Okay,
just
I
saying
will mention
Field
also,
question.
and when we were talking about cases of discrimination and hatred, like we can see, for example, that there are a lot of feeling, like it's continually said, white people have this sort of bigotry in them more, and this inherent, and that you don't see these group preferences in African Americans was said. We see that when it comes to hate crimes, disproportionately, those are overwhelmingly committed by people of color. In an evaluation, survey experiment studies permit there were a bunch of surveys that were done, and they asked all these people defining characteristics of the other skin color. A meta-analysis of 17 surveys and were published in Research and Politics found for whites, there's no detectable net discrimination for or against whites by white people. For black participants, they exhibited a small to moderate net discrimination in favor of black targets.
The screen's
So
blacked
it's
out.
not as simple as it's being said. We definitely see that there are people that use this sort of idea of critical race theory to engage in racist practice and dislike people based on their skin color being white.
White identity is seen as the default. It's seen as the norm in society. So a lot of white people aren't aware of their racial identity. They're not aware.
Camera's died again, Praise, just so you know.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go ahead and move on. From P. Barnes, $5. Arrested Development narrator. The upside down world Alex was referring to was actually the real world.
That's true. I mean, that's uh, from the show Arrested Development. Who's the guy that Opie from you know what I'm
Ron
talking?
Howard.
Ron Howard. Yes, we are in the upside down world. These guys are saying race isn't real, and that Rachel Dolezal is black. So we are in the upside down world for
You
sure.
keep saying, I'm going to explain it to you one last time, and then I'm just going to write you off as a lost cause. Race is not biologically real. There is no hard categorical separation of races that you can draw genetically or biologically. Race is socially constructed. Socially constructed does not mean not real.
A
And if you don't
black
understand it by
man and a
now,
black woman do not have a white baby, bud. That's just not how it works.
Listen, but here's the problem, Jangles. Here's the problem with your interpretation. Let's say that,
That is
arguably,
correct.
let's say that arguably there is no perfect way to determine race. Because here's the two competing definitions that we have. That we look at biological factors is one, which I agree with, or you say that it's totally socially constructed. We can see what that leads to for you. If someone says who looks like me says actually I identify as black, you have to say, okay.
No,
So
I don't.
which one? Why don't you? You said it's based on is Rachel Dolezal white or black?
I don't think that she's black. But like I said, I'm interested in the conversation.
So then you just
What do you
you
mean
just
interested?
Okay, this is for Alex's
See,
question.
This is
so let me
something that I
have the final
admitted
word.
like an
Let's move
hour
on.
and a half
I know,
ago,
but it
and
just
she
shows you, dude. You're a hypocrite. Everything you're saying, you're talking
Okay.
out of both
All right,
sides.
let's move
You're
on.
just you're talking.
You're so fucking.
We've already been over
stupid.
this.
You're a hypocrite. But go ahead.
All right, guys. Bubblegum gun, $2. Class is greater than race. Critical class theory ban the military. Okay,
There's
let's move on.
ban the military stupid, but there is a lot of truth in it. The reality is the people that really run this country at the establishment level, and I mean corporate America, the mainstream media, academia, the politicians, etc., at the top tier level, they seek to divide us by race. That's why they love critical race theory. That's why Starbucks or Nike that's using near slave labor in China puts Black Lives Matter up on their website. Because as long as we're fighting over this stupid race stuff, the real people that actually have power that keep us from power, they're laughing their ass off because they're causing this division amongst us. So yes, these class disputes where we should be focused. Instead, we literally have to, like, I have all kinds of evidence. Oakland, California, for example.
I wonder if there are
was
any
giving
class
out
disputes that might have to
was
break.
giving
All right,
out
guys,
thousands of dollars
guys.
to
Let's
poor
move
people.
on.
Okay, just let me finish real quick. Oakland gave out money to poor people as long as they were black. That's where we're at now.
All right. Let's move on. Madus NCO, $5. Also for Jangles. Wait, let me read this real quick. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Also for Jangles, why did my black buddy in the army get promoted over a bunch of white dudes when the U.S. Army was set up by white men for white men?
If anybody succeeds, if anybody overcomes their circumstances, if anybody overcomes hardship, that means that there is no hardship. I have bad news. If this is your view of what racism looks like in America, I better never hear any of you say that there's any anti-white racism whatsoever. White people have been the president. White people are the presidents of like all these CEOs. White people have made it to the most powerful positions in society, and that's the level of racism that has to be set. Now,
No.
I better hear
All right,
nothing about anti-white racism at any point because people have gotten over it. There can't be any discrimination widespread if one person or even a minority of people like make it past it and still manage to like succeed in society. That's survivorship bias, baby.
Similarly,
I
what
didn't-
we see
I
is
didn't
any
know-
incident, if it happens to a black person, is immediately denotated as racist.
This is
The
Jangles'
exact
question,
same
so he has to
idea.
have the final word.
Okay. Now this is no. Survivorship bias is a thing. Just because someone makes it out, someone can succeed despite their circumstances, doesn't mean those circumstances warrant an unnecessary hardship. I don't know why this is a legitimate question that people still ask.
All right. Late night HVAC, $4.99. How do you explain black immigrants from Jamaica and Honduras being more educated and having a higher median income than blacks born here?
Well, because since the countries that they're coming from are not continuous, you have to have a lot of money to come over here. So if you have a lot of money, you're probably going to succeed a lot more. Right? Racism is not just this, it's not the only factor. And that's why the critical race theory looks at more than one thing. Critical race theory doesn't say that race is the only important thing that is that you could look at in society. And to reduce it to that, it's just simply incorrect. If someone says that a critical race theory says that race is the only important factor in all circumstances, don't listen to them. That person is an idiot trying to sell you something. The fact that there are people who can afford to come to the United States who happen to be black, they have a lot of money. They have access to a lot of education. That's why that's a thing.
Let's be honest.
I assume that question was directed towards us, to be honest. because that tries to speak to your point, is what they're trying to do. And the reality
I
is,
think that really is. How do you
okay,
explain
that's cool. We can move
outdoors
on. I don't
from-
care.
outdoors
I have
from
an answer.
educated
That's
and
fine.
I'm gonna say let's move on. Okay, this one's a question. Has anyone on the panel read the book Helen Pluckrose and James Lindsay's book Cynical Theories? I feel Jangles would do a good book review on it.
I have actually read it, and I'm going to.
Okay, let's move on. Do you think schools are currently miseducating students on the subjects about race if they are not teaching CRT? Do you think schools are racist for not teaching CRT?
It depends on what your definition of CRT is. Again, as we started banning more and more CRT, as schools started banning CRT, the definition of CRT seemed to encapsulate everything. If you seriously, if you talk about racial justice, apparently that's CRT now. I think any education, and we talk about social studies, again, if we look at social studies, they teach norms, they teach values, they teach civic duty in our society, they teach history. And if you ignore the impact of slavery, if you ignore the impact of Jim Crow, if you ignore the impact of every other racial disparity that has been perpetuated through pro-white white supremacist policies, I think you're doing a disservice to your students. What really got me upset about this is that a lot of people are opposed to this because they think it'll make people hate America. And so it's the focus is on making kids love America, making them patriotic more than it is telling them the truth. And if that happened in any other country, I think a lot of those people would recognize it as propaganda. When love for your country takes precedence over teaching the truth, I think that's dangerous. And if you look at how people justify the systems that they're in, if you teach people that racism is not a thing in America anymore, and you ignore the material reality, the objective reality that Black people are in the position that they are right now based on historical circumstances that perpetuate from generation to generation, well, if Black people are here, white people are here, and there's no such thing as racism anymore, a lot of people will post hoc justify that. So I think that's dangerous, and I think you're doing a disservice to your students if you don't talk about that stuff. I don't care if you call it CRT because no one knows what that means anyway. None of the people protesting didn't know what it means, and I'll even admit a lot of people defending it don't know what it means. But if we encompass CRT to start talking about white privilege, systemic racism, racial justice, then yeah, if you take those things out and make them illegal to talk about, yeah, I think you're doing an enormous disservice not only to your students but to the citizens that they will eventually become.
We talked about racism before CRT. It's the unique things we talked about that's bad with CRT that we reject.
Okay, well, why are people? Okay, again, I said people are defining more and more stuff as CRT to fall under the.
How old are you? If you don't mind me asking, you could just give me a decade, 30
years
40, 30. Okay. Did you learn critical
40s?
race theory in your school?
If I learned about slavery and the impact that it had, kinda, sorta, but it was
okay,
downplayed
that's
a lot.
not critical race theory, and that's fundamentally why you've been so wrong in this debate. And no one disagrees that we shouldn't teach about slavery. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Of course we teach about slavery.
Hold on.
I didn't go through critical race theory.
All right. Well, then okay. I'll take the L on this. If you say that James Lindsay is full of shit when he says that teaching about racial justice is part of critical race theory.
You already took the L. You already took the L, bud. It doesn't matter. I mean, you took a huge L today, so it doesn't matter what we say. Yeah, you lost. Cool.
Hey, since you're very smart and have contributed a lot, how about that? Is James Lindsay stupid and completely full of shit when he says that teaching about racial justice is part of CRT?
James Lindsay's the smartest person to ever teach in the world. James Lindsay's so smart. Thank you, James Lindsay, for existing. If it wasn't for James Lindsay, the fabric of society would crumble. So thank God.
So when he says that racial justice is part of CRT, teaching that, you agree with him?
Oh, I agree with him.
Yes,
everything he says.
It is part.
Yeah.
Let's say that again. Part of it. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And if we ban CRT,
no. For example, teaching slavery.
No, that's not at all. Not at all.
Real quick.
I heard all I need to know from conspiracy.
Right. I know you don't want to answer this. Jangles, is teaching slavery part of CRT?
No, it's a lens through which to view it.
Right, but the idea of slavery and the historical account of slavery would be part of a teaching of CRT, correct?
It could be, yeah. It depends.
So if we ban CRT,
if we ban different ways.
Real quick, so if we ban CRT, are we banning teaching of slavery?
There is a lens, and I've said that multiple times. If you teach slavery, is that this is a bad thing that America did, but we're better now. Racism is over. Then yeah, you're not using CRT. But if
no one's saying that, no one's saying to teach that we're better. There is no racism. No one. This is a straw man.
Okay, cool. So is saying that racism is the only thing that exists in America.
Okay. I've cited the critical race theory authors that say racism is ever prevalent.
And you changed your definition of no true Scotsman.
Dude, you're the one that's been a hypocrite the whole time.
Let's move on. We got more questions coming in still. We're probably going to go all the way to the end there. If you guys send in your questions now, I'm not sure. Well, it's difficult to listen to you guys and try to, moderate and watch the chat and, all the crap, But if you guys send in any more questions now, I'm not sure, especially if they're not super chats. I'm not 100% sure that they're going to get read. We did get another super chat in from Snark Boy, not Shark Boy, Snark Boy. $5 to the nose. A policy isn't racist because of individual racists. It's racist if it disproportionately negatively impacts minorities.
That's not true. Right? If that was the case, then that would go with any group that we could say. So, for example, if a policy disproportionately affected wealthy people, is that classist? If a policy disproportionately affects men, is that sexist? No, not necessarily. For example, rape laws disproportionately affect men because men commit more rapes, but that doesn't mean that that law is sexist. That's the problem with critical race theory.
No,
there are reasons.
Listen,
real quick.
example.
The question was directed.
No, that's good. No,
just let me answer here.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
I need you to
let Rob finish. No, we let you talk and say your psychobabble hypocritical bullcrap. Let Rob at least finish his statement. I mean, I think you got to let him finish.
Okay, but I need to respond to just one thing he's saying when he's done.
Okay, so it doesn't prove it. So it doesn't prove because there are outcomes that are disparate that it was racist. Racism could factor in is one of the reasons. Hell, it could be entirely racist, but it's not proof that it is racist. And if you start under the assumption, if there are unequal outcomes, that proves that there was bigotry, then we lead to this crazy world where we make all of these sorts of excuses, a world of equity. Equal outcomes is a disaster. Forcing equal outcomes is a disaster. We should force equal opportunity. Show me the law that is set up to dissuade from equal opportunity, and I will decry as racist right there for you. But we don't just do like Jangles and others have done here, where we say, if there's any disparate outcome, that proves racism.
Okay. Another super chat came in from Madus NCO, $5. Jangles just assumed my buddy only got promoted because he fell through the cracks of a white system, but it was actually because he was better. Jangles?
How does that contradict what I said? I said someone succeeded. All right. You probably how does that contradict what I said?
I didn't know data was pronounced anecdotes.
Did I mispronounce something?
No. He's making a claim. Look, it's not a matter of data. The problem is,
of course, it's not. If it was a matter of data, you would be having this position.
That I think that the general point that's trying to be made is we shouldn't assume people as a collective and that the reason they don't succeed is because of the system, because there's a bigotry of low expectations that then means we assume that anyone that was able to overcome that wasn't through their individual talent. It was because somehow the white man didn't keep them down. And that's
if you
absurd.
truly believe in this, then nothing that we do, no CRT that we teach, none of that's going to affect anybody because individuals can just choose not to be affected by it. They can just choose.
That's not true at all.
If you truly believe in what you talked about,
I don't believe that. That's not what I believe. That's not what I believe.
You're talking to kindergartners. You're indoctrinating kindergartners.
Move on.
What okay? Last question. I need is the Pledge of Allegiance indoctrination?
No.
Cool. Okay, move on.
In a sense, it's
okay.
You could argue.
Dude, CRT's propaganda. That's all that
matters. Asked and answered. Okay, Snark Boy, $5. Good Jangles. Good work. Do you think it'd be better if CRT rebranded? It's easy to get mad at terms like white fragility if you don't know what it means.
So the term I like to use is system justification theory. All right, it takes away the malice. It takes away our perceptions of racism and just focuses it on what is perceived as normal in society. People like the status quo because it gives them comfort. Even if the status quo is fucking them over, it still provides a set of norms, a set of customs through which you can make sense of the world. All right, so you can take away individual malice out of the equation and just people will fight to have a motivated reasoning to maintain the status quo. That's why I don't think that the white people who are scared that, oh no, we might become a minority in our own country, I don't think that they are terrible people. I think that they are implicitly racist, and I think that they're advocating for racist outcomes because they view that as a zero-sum game. But I don't think that they're inherently terrible people. I don't like that good-bad binary that discussions of racism often turn into. I just think it's a matter of people want to maintain the status quo. A lot of people will see like activists saying that if someone is fighting against the status quo, if they are like a leftist or a progressive fighting against the status quo, most people are more likely to assume that that leftist or that progressive fighting against it is going to be more like intrinsically selfishly motivated versus a conservative who's just trying to fight to keep things the same. And I think that's really does a disservice into the American spirit of trying to get better, trying to fix problems that we had, trying to recognize that we do have a set of norms in our society. We do try to enforce like we do try to make abhorrent deviations from those norms, and that kind of goes against the American spirit of freedom and equality and like the ability to do what you want to do. So I would reframe it as system justification theory. And I think it would be a lot less combative. But the fact that I don't know, that's how I would reframe it.
Okay, really, guys, gotta say, if you send any more super chats in or any questions, I don't think that they'll get read anymore. I'll try to get the last ones in here. Let me put them in here, those lists. But okay, $5 from 5 times 1,000. We blaming the Europeans for slavery instead of the white Americans. I don't believe people fled to America and said, "Damn, we forgot the slaves."
So I guess this is directed towards us. No, slavery there was slavery that was occurring all throughout the world, right? It might have been done in different ways. So I know that one of the arguments that critical race theory proponents want to say is chattel slavery was the way slavery was done in the United States, which was uniquely different than other countries. But we see that European countries, for example, had other forms of slavery. If you don't believe it, read King Leopold's Ghost. Look what they were doing in the exploitation of Africa and places like that. Again, the argument is the United States didn't create slavery. We are the country that fought the most costly war to end slavery.
Okay.
Who we fight
Four
against?
Okay. $4.99 from Late Night HVAC. First generation Black immigrants are very poor, yet they can grow into middle class income in one generation. Why not for born here Blacks?
All right, it takes about 5 generations for wealth disparities to even out.
Okay.
Just because
By
it
being
can't happen
true
doesn't mean
according
it's
to the
difficult.
data.
Okay, Rob, let's finish.
Hold on.
Okay,
Just because it
Thaibiso.
happens. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Thaibiso Mahal. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm so sorry. Thaibiso, $5 from at Modern Debate for Alex. Are you saying Black folks at the NAACP couldn't tell Rachel wasn't Black, or could they? But they just accepted her.
They couldn't at first. At first, they thought she was actually black until they caught her lying. She said she was black, and then they found pictures of her young with her parents, and so she had white parents. So yeah, they fell for it, and she's a white person that lied to try to gain the advantage of being a victim. It's really kind of quite sad, and it's really sad that people were debating can't admit she's a white person that lied when she admits that she's a white person.
Okay. From Bubblegum Gun, the Pledge of Allegiance was written by a communist. Anybody want to respond to that? Nope. Okay.
Relevant.
Aftershock for $5. If racism is whenever something disproportionately affects minorities, is it racist when Democrats push for $60?
$600
gun insurance when it affects Blacks
Gun.
mostly.
Yes.
I may have missed something in the copy. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Jangles, you agree?
Well, it might come as a surprise to you, but yeah, and the left, yeah, a lot of lefties do agree. Yeah, that's racist because it's going to hurt Black people more.
Can I ask a follow-up? Do you think it's racist to have vaccine passports since it's harder for Blacks to get identification?
It could be in certain areas, but I think the greater good outweighs it.
Vaccine
Okay, let's
passports
move on.
and gun registration racist. Good.
I'm gonna try to get to these other questions that weren't paid for real quick. Read that one. Ask Jangles to prove race is not biological in less than 1 minute. Go.
Okay, cool. When we say race, we're talking about like Black, white, Asian, all that fun stuff. These are not real categories that are meaningfully separated based on genetics. All right. No geneticist, no biologist will say like, yeah, you can take this cluster of genes and we can say this person is Black. All right. These are social constructions that we say like, hey, someone who like, it's mostly based on looks. In fact, it's mostly based on self-identification. So for example, in the medical field, we look at racial disparities in medicine. And we say that the racial disparities are salient when it comes to like the logistics and the infrastructure of medicine, but they are not relevant when we talk about the actual outcome, the biology of medicine. Doctors don't use the biological definitions of race. Geneticists don't use the biological definitions of race. We use it to determine social outcomes because it is a social construct. I cannot believe this has been such a conversation.
Okay.
You know, I think
that other question that we had was the $600 for gun insurance, right? Is that what we were talking about before?
Yes.
Okay, so this question's already been asked and answered. All right, so this will be the last question.
Explain sickle cell.
All right, you can't look at a Black person and say they have sickle cell.
No,
You
but
can't.
we know that
No,
sickle
but you
cell.
can
we
look at a
know that
white
we could
person
look
and
at
know he
se-
doesn't have it.
If
No.
biology doesn't
Jangles,
exist,
would
then
you
it
be
doesn't
insulted
exist.
if I said
That's false.
Sorry.
Hold on,
I went
I-
to school with
Hold
a white girl that had sickle
I need
cell.
to, yeah, I need
Very
to push back on
rarely.
that. Sickle cell comes from growing an ancestry that grew up near the like equator during like tropical climates, because sickle cell eventually it helps to guard against malaria. Okay, all right, so we can trace your ancestry back to those tropical areas and say like, yeah, you're more likely to have sickle cell, but we cannot look at your race. All right,
Dude,
But
you
that's a
deny
biological
that black people are
reality.
more
That's
likely to have
biological
sickle
reality.
cell anemia is insane, dude. They have it more than white people. Fact. And you won't admit that.
Fact,
It
if
just
you-
shows you're not based in reality.
okay, ask a doctor. This has been incredible.
Well, I
tonight.
know
no,
you're
you
not a
cannot look at a
doctor.
black person. You cannot look at an individual black person and decide.
I'm not saying
well,
look
you're
at an
more
individual, but I can look
Okay,
at a
guys,
black
let's
person who's
not
more
get
likely
into
to
a
have it
whole
than a
new
white
debate,
person
guys.
because of their
Let's
genetics.
set up a new
Because
debate
of
for
their
another
different
time.
genetics. Because black people have different genetics than white people. That's why they're more likely to have sickle cell anemia. And you can't admit
Alex,
that.
I'm sure you
Can
don't believe
see,
evolution
Can you
as
see
well.
DNA when you look at somebody? Can
Dude,
you
what
see
are you talking
DNA
about?
when you look at somebody?
No, you can't see
You're
DNA.
talking
It's
about
too
genetics. You
small.
can see
Yeah, but
genetics.
I,
No, can
dude,
you see
dude,
DNA?
Okay.
can
Okay.
two white people have a black baby? Can two white people have a black baby? No, dude. You guys
We've
are.
got to
You
wrap
guys
it up,
really
guys.
got to get based in reality. You guys are not. I mean, I can tell you're on
We've
that
got
little
to
twin
wrap it up.
bed. If that's your bedroom, dude, that is a very sad reality you
and-
live in. I'm
and
just
if-
saying
if-
that.
We've
Very
got to wrap it
scary.
up.
Very
We've got
scary
to wrap it up.
reality.
We've got to wrap it
Sorry.
up. Okay. Thank you all so much for your vigorous conversation here tonight. You were all very impassioned. You spoke with much vigor and heart, and we all appreciate that. I'm sure the chat was loving it, and I certainly did enjoy it as well. Thank everybody in the chat for engaging with us, and thank you all for trying to attack the arguments and not the speakers. Thank you, the moderators. Thank everybody for pitching in and helping out, keep everything civil and changing the discourse. And I want to thank everybody that came together. Thank you, Praise, for producing and helping us get this show on the road and keeping everything together. I had a lot of fun. Make sure everybody to go and check out our debaters in the description. Smash the like button, subscribe if you can, and we'll see you next time. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. Have a good night.
See y'all.
See y'all.
And we're offline. Great show, guys. We had some technical problems that we got it figured out. So, yeah.
That's cool. I got to practice my articulation a few times.
It
All right,
was
I'm gonna head
fun.
out, everyone.
See you guys.
Thank you all.
Peace. Thank y'all.
Everybody.
Later. See you.
Wow, what was that, dude? That was insane. I don't even know what to say. I mean, you're dealing with people that are just not based in reality. I don't know if I should even leave this stream up. In the chat, say 1 if I should leave the stream up, 2 if I should take it down. Do you think this is going to get a guideline strike for all this racial talk? I don't even know if I should leave it on. Is I do 1 if I leave it on, 2 if I put it on the Patreon. 1 leave it up, 1 leave it up. A lot of 1s. Yeah, I mean, I guess I will leave it up. It's not about the debate. I just don't want to get a community guideline strike. Did it seem like it was? Do you guys think it'll get a hate speech though? See, some people are 2s. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll put it on to 6.0. I'm just worried. I don't want to look at that. I like the person who put 52. That's my kind of humor. You're funny. Okay, good. No hate speech. And freaking, I guess no one should listen to it. Okay, then I guess I'll leave it up. Man, I hope. I hope it's okay. I'm gonna leave it up. I know it was an interesting debate, but oh, we just got a subscriber. Well, guys, I want to tell y'all thank you very much for participating in the chat. Thank y'all for being there. I know I probably should have talked a little more, but Rob was a badass. Everybody needs to go to Rob's channel. He's going to do a after show. And now I'm all pissed off about my mic. I got to freaking figure out how to get my microphone sounding right. I hate that it sounds so bad. I don't know why. I don't know why my freaking microphone messes up all the time. Yeah, you're saying my ears. Shit. It's like, why does it do that? I don't understand why I'm talking about how bad it is. Unless that's trolling. Unless that Lucas Williams guy is trolling. I mean, maybe he is. I don't know why it freaking does that. Well, listen. All I know is this. Now, somebody said it was freaking hot. Well, I'm having mic issues like crazy. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Tuesday, we'll be back on the grind, primetime 99. I love you guys. It was a pleasure. I'll see y'all. Peace and good night.